Good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon, however you happen to be watching this. This is round 2 of us attempting to get this done. Welcome to the Gaming Circle podcast. Hopefully folks can see and or hear me, and I am not completely botting and or disconnected from what we are saying. Yes, we first tried it out. It didn't seem to work out real well, and we have a backup plan. So the show must move forward, and we're going to go do it this way. Thank you, everybody, for tuning back in. If you have an opportunity to do so, I will, of course, share it out and make sure folks know that we're back in. I will once again introduce my wonderful guests who have been very patient with me. First, we have Mr. John Wolf in the house. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for sticking with us.
No worries, Kate. Thank you for the invite. We are filling in for Everborn here,
Yes.
Mav. So we got some big shoes to fill. I got the blue background going in the spirit of Sonic. So yeah, I can't wait to get into these topics, Kay. And thank you again for the invite.
Thank you. And of course, we have fun speculation. Mr. Mav, how you doing, good sir?
Hey, excited again. Hey, let's give this another go, man.
Like, yeah, you know.
I've been looking forward to being on this show. So, but technical difficulties cannot set us astray. We're gonna have some fun today.
Indeed it does. So yes, for those who weren't aware, we were using the old OBS, and I have a feeling that my external sound card needs to be replaced. It's hence a lot of the choppiness and the connection issues, but we'll sort that out for another day. But you know what? Let's get this started. Let us start as how we always do, with some games that we have been playing. And Mr. Wolf, I will start with you, good sir. What games have you been playing? What's been keeping you busy this week?
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2, trying to finish up that Forsaken pack that I never got around to. So I know that once the Witch Queen releases, they're gonna kind of vault that stuff. So I'm kind of trying to progress through the story there. And in preparation for for this stream, I fired up a CrossFire X for about an hour, and yikes, we'll get into that.
Indeed we will. So basically, by and large, it tends to just be you've been playing the witch, preparing for the Witch Queen.
Yeah, just trying to get through the story. I never finished the Forsaken. Right now, I think I've taken down 5 of the 7 Barons, something like that. It was good, man. I don't know. I slept on that back when it came out. I was just playing other stuff. I didn't get around to it, but now with the recent announcement, I kind of got an itch for let me jump back into Destiny 2. We got that Witch Queen coming out soon, and I don't want to miss out on the Forsaken stuff.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, if you check my internet, my usage, my what do you call it, how much I've been playing online, you will see that I am far more of a Destiny fan than I may pretend in the beginning, because at the end of the day, I have like hundreds of hours in that game, even though I couldn't tell you what the storyline is. I couldn't tell you how the storyline, because that's one thing they don't seem to be very good at. It seems like the story is a bit obtuse, but at the end of the day, it ends up like working out anyway. So yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what PlayStation does as far as helping them get that story even better. But how about you, Mr. Mav? What have you been playing this week? What's been keeping you busy?
Dying Light 2, man.
Please expound. Let us know.
I tried to play Crossfire X, but that's not gonna. I'm not gonna keep doing that. But yeah, Dying Light 2, dude, it's so good. So good.
Please explain. Like, so for those who are not aware, Rosario Dawson is in the game. David Bell is in the game, but a lot of that marketing never really made it to the public to the public ear. Like, so I was watching some of your streams, Mav, and I'm like, is that Rosario Dawson? That's absolutely crazy. I never even knew she was in the game. Now I knew David Bell was in the game because I'm big into action movies and whatnot. And David Bell, if you don't know, horrible actor, amazing parkourist. He basically invented parkour, and he's in this game. So that had me already excited because I love B movies, and he's king of the B movie. But so tell us, like, it's been getting kind of mixed reviews. Some people think it's a little generic. Others love it. How are you feeling about it, man?
Man, I think it's fantastic, dude. It's got an amazing story, a very densely packed world. You're able to have a blast doing lots of different things. There's lots of different things to look for. There's lots of quests. The story branches into different directions depending on decisions, which is like not something a lot of them have been talking about. But like Pong, has made different decisions. Like he's playing as well, right? Our buddy Punxsutaul.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's made different decisions all along the way, and his story is completely different from mine.
That's
Like
awesome.
all of the things that are happening to me with like this dialogue and these scenes are different in his game than they are in mine, right? Because I've made different impactful decisions, right?
So they really have they've actually nailed that Telltale formula where your decisions actually do change everything, huh?
So yeah, they got cool like for me it's like a mix of like something like Skyrim, Oblivion / zombie game / Fallout, not or slash Fallout / Far Cry. It's got all of these like different formulas packed into this one densely populated game, but it's got almost like RPG type decisions with the story as well, right? So it's fantastic, dude. I mean, it could be optimized a little bit better. They just did have one patch. I've been
How
playing
is it now? Did it fix a lot of the things? A lot of the complaints?
It didn't ever play bad. The only thing is, like on the Series S, it was like locked at 30, and
which is very strange, very very strange.
On the Series X, on the Series X for 60 frames, you're at 1080p.
Yeah.
Right. So now they did do a thing where I think they enabled like VRR or whatever. So like you can go above 60 now, like you can go to like 80 to 120, something like that. But as far as like, I would like to see like a 1440p up res to 4K, right, at 60 frames, which is something that lots of other games have been able to do. But they say that because of the verticality and a lot of these other things, make it really challenging that how dense it is with like lots of stuff to do and all these different things. It makes it more challenging for their game than some others. But they're going to keep working on that. Overall, though, that doesn't take the enjoyment at all away out of the game. Playing 1080p is fine for me at 60 frames, and it's a blast, dude. Absolutely a blast. I love it.
All right. Yeah, I've been wanting to get into it. It's just there's just so many games fighting for your time. And some may not know this about me, but my first real love, like as a young adult love was Mortal Kombat. So so when Sifu came out, it was right up my alley. It's literally like it was that, what was it? The Sub-Zero the Deadly Alliance game where you're walking around like using like Mortal Kombat combos. And
was that Dark Mythologies or something like that?
Dark Mythology, yes. This game, Sifu, is exactly like that. So it was basically catnip to me. And as you can see, folks, if you can see my screen, that is what I'm playing through right now. That game is hard as nails, bro. But it is so good. It is so good. It's so good. Is that all you've been playing, Mav? Like it's been mainly knee deep in
this past week. I've also Rainbow Six Extraction. I know that's for some people, not for some people.
Yeah, I hear you love it. Tell me how good it is, because I have not tried it out yet.
So if you like slow paced tactical stealth type experiences, like especially co-op where you actually have to use teamwork and strategically plan out actions and stuff like that, you're gonna love it. Okay. If you want to run and gun, you're gonna hate it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not a run and gun type of game.
No, sometimes the situation calls for it. It was like, oh crap, and you have to like scramble and you're like panicking and you're trying to get to an extraction, right? But like if you go through it methodically with teammates and you have communication and you're planning out, it's like stealth ops almost, right? Yeah. It's like for me, that is amazing because that is what Clancy is for me. Classic.
Sure. Yeah, that is the classic Rainbow, idea of Clancy. You're right.
Classic Ghost Recon, classic Splinter Cell, right? It reminds me, you remember back in like Splinter Cell Conviction, right? With the co-op mode that they had where you have to like go through and like, okay, you shoot, I'll shoot. You know what I mean? You kind of have to plan that stuff out with your teammates like on the fly. Rainbow Six Extraction has that for me. Now it is like repetitive with the mission structure and kind of grindy, but I also like that because there's a lot of things that like they do differently with this, right? So they take some of these like XCOM style things in there, like from some of those games where like your operator gets hurt and you have to wait for them to heal, right? So if you keep going in and struggling, you're going to be low on operators. You're going to have less of a choice. You also have to strategically plan, okay, this is what I'm bringing with my operator. This is his ability. What are you bringing? What is his ability? Especially for the more higher difficulties. Your operator, if he dies, he gets left behind. You have to go rescue them. You know, there's a lot of different stuff that's
So
people aren't really
there's strategic difficulty built into the game, is what
yeah,
you're
it's
saying.
risk versus reward. Like
Interesting.
there's 3 levels to each mission you undertake.
Mhm.
And the further you progress, it's like, okay, I'm low on health, I'm low on ammo, you're low on health, you're low on ammo. Do we try and get this next objective done, or do we extract now and take our rewards? Right? Now, if you push forward, you get more experience, you get more rewards, and you also get to achieve all that stuff with that operator. Once you extract, you know you're gonna have to wait for that operator to heal. But if you die, you lose experience,
Yeah,
right?
there's
They actually penalize
consequences.
you. There's some
Mm.
consequences. It is for a more of a hardcore Clancy type player. Now, it's not for everybody, like I said, but for a game that has aliens in it and stuff, which
Mm.
I was kind of like, like a Clancy game with aliens, you know. Um, like it's my favorite of all of these PvE shooters that have been
Wow.
coming out co-op, like Back for Blood, all of those games. Like for me right now, Rainbow Six Extraction hits that sweet spot of that tactical shooter experience
Mhm.
that I have been waiting for, even if I am shooting aliens. It's refreshing to see like the dedication to what Clancy means as far as the mechanics go. Right.
Interesting.
So love
Interesting.
it.
That is high praise, my friend. High praise, because
Yep.
a lot of people have been kind of clowning it, saying, you know how it started off. It went from being it had a what was it? The title used to be different, and then because of
Quarantine. Yeah.
quarantine, and then because of later events, recent events, they changed it, and it is one among many. So it kind of it didn't lead with its best foot. But you're telling me the game
It's
is actually worth
very,
playing.
very different than all of those other games.
Yeah.
I do say that even though like I can have fun playing it by myself, if you go into
Mhm.
it by yourself expecting to have like a great fun time, I mean, there's
Mhm.
not like a lot story wise there to grab you. Like there's no like
The fun is more about
PvP.
you and your folks together planning an
Yeah,
attack.
which so now for me, I still have fun by myself, but it's
Mhm.
because I'm in this grind aspect of I want to achieve these things, I want to
Mhm.
accomplish these things, right? And if you're just looking to go in there and shoot up stuff and have fun like that, right?
Mhm.
It's not going to be for you. You're going to find it like annoying. You find it very difficult. You're going to find it hard, and you're going to not have a blast because it is a very like toned down
Grindy.
world,
Sure,
right?
sure. Okay.
So, but you, dude, I love it, man. It's I think it's a really well made game too. It's polished, it works,
Very
right? Like
cool.
the all this stuff, So, yeah, I gotta give him credit where credit's due on this one.
See, so if that's the case, then that means I guess what's happening is it seems to me that the messaging around it is kind of doing it a disservice. Do you think that's the case?
I think that you know it just depends on the player, right?
Mhm.
And I think that because a lot of the stuff with Ubisoft, which I'm also against a lot of the stuff
Mm,
Ubisoft's
mm.
doing, right? Ubisoft has all these issues in their offices. They have, they're coming out with all these free to play like weird stuff like X Defiant, and stuff like this. And a lot of their stuff is like getting bundled into this. Okay, this is like this new Ubisoft that we don't like. And I've had rants.
Mhm.
I've even had a stream where I'm like pleading to Ubisoft to like let us get some regular experiences, right? Like, but since then we've seen the announcement of a Splinter Cell remake, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We've seen this
Like a
game came
real
out,
Splinter Cell remake,
yeah,
not that
and
other stuff.
I was not expecting to like this game,
Okay.
right? So I went into this with the open mind. It's in Game Pass. I get to try it out with no consequence to me, right?
Mhm.
Turns out I had a blast playing it with Pong and Steel, who are live right now as well over
Yes,
on another
indeed,
stream.
indeed, indeed. Yes, they
Um,
are.
and I just had a blast going through the levels and learning all the systems and all these things. And
Cool.
mechanically, it's good. It's graphically, I mean, it's not going to blow your socks off, right? It's
Mhm.
a $40
They
game,
say
right?
it looks very much like the game of its kind from Ubisoft. It's almost like they reused a lot of the
Yeah,
engine assets that they already
100%.
had. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Where it's
okay.
different is I'm getting that tactical co-op experience, right?
Mm,
And there's not a lot of games that do that.
great,
So
great.
it scratches an itch. You know what I mean? So I think if people are
Hmm.
into that tactical co-op type experience, or even just a tactical game where you have to weigh your decisions, right? you have to think about your moves before you do them. You have to pace yourself, you know? It's not just like show up, I got all the tools at my disposal, I'm gonna blow stuff up and I'm out, you know? If you want
it's
to
not that
have
type of a game. Yep.
if you want to feel that weight of consequence against you constantly, then Rainbow Six Extraction is for you.
Very cool, man. Very, very cool. I have to say, you know, like you're saying that maybe it's been lumped in with other games that because of what you've described, the Ubisoftness of it all, and salute to my brother, Mr. Mashano Loon, who used to work at Ubisoft. He's filled my head with a bunch of horror stories, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me go, this will just be one of those shooters like all the others, and I didn't give it the shot that it deserves. But based on what you're saying, maybe it definitely does deserve a shot. So I might put that on the list for sure. I will definitely put that on the list.
Yeah, you just have to go into it with the mindset of what it is and understand that, right?
Yeah, it's good to have a tactical shooter that's actually a tactical shooter rather than everyone says they are, but at the end of the day, it's a power fantasy, which not all games should be that way. I agree with you.
I think there's a problem with marketing too for them, and like a lot of these studios don't really know how to market their games for the intended audience that they're trying to reach.
Yeah,
because
even that's the big one. Yep.
Marketing material for this is like, you know, you see like fast-paced music, like and, you know, you got like guys with aliens all running at you, and you're like popping them off one after the other, and it gives people the impression it's more like a Back for Blood type experience.
That's a great point. That's a great point, because when I downloaded it, that's what I went into thinking. So that's a great point, Matt. And then I started playing and I saw the tactical aspect of it. I saw that the other two players on my team, we weren't communicating or anything, and we were paying for it. We were getting killed over and over again, and quite honestly, it wasn't fun. So
if you're not playing with teammates that you can communicate with, then play by yourself.
Yeah,
don't play that game with randoms.
Yeah, some games just don't deserve.
You may get
can't
lucky.
have it.
You may get lucky. You know,
is this a game that requires communication as far as like open mic, or how's the ping system?
It does have a system, but like it's not as like intuitive.
It's
as
an open mic
like
kind of situation,
right?
Huh?
I highly recommend using a microphone in this game.
Okay.
There's certain objectives that literally you will fail unless you have communication and everybody knows what they're going to do. Right? You have to assign jobs. Like there, for example, there's one type of thing called the aberrant nest, where there's 15 nests, and the nest will spawn quickly enemies, okay? But they don't spawn them until you shoot the first one, okay? So you have 15 spread around this open environment. Now, you have to get and pop these things quickly. You got to take them out one by one, okay? So you got 3 people on your squad. You got to assign who's covering this area.
Who's going to go here? Who's going to go there? That's right. Yeah.
Because if you just somebody goes in there, they just pop one off, you're done. All of those things are going to start spawning enemies. You're going to flood you like crazy. You're going to be scrambling. You're going to be running for your life.
That was me. That was me, by the way, when I played it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. And so you gotta, if you take them all out, then you can complete the objective. But you gotta communicate.
So messaging is really the problem here, then, because it is a game that is worth people's time. They just need to message it correctly. Understood. Interesting. Well, okay. So what I have been playing, as you guys can see on the screen here, is Sifu. I first and foremost, I heard folks talking online about, oh, you can beat this in 40 minutes. You know, clowning people who are paying X amount of dollars for a short game. If you can beat this game in 40 minutes, please. DM me with proof. I will buy you a game of your choice, because you are a god among men at that point. Oh boy, I want to see somebody. Obviously, we know there'll be speedrunners and brilliant gamers who will be able to do it. But if you touch this game, never played it before, and you're able to go right through it and get to the end in 40 minutes, you are a titan among titans, people. Like, this game is very good, but it's also very, very difficult. Like,
is it a roguelike?
Kind of. And I'll explain what I mean by that. First off, imagine the moment-to-moment gameplay more in akin of, you know how when you were playing, and I've already said this, like Mortal Kombat. Remember how when you were playing Mortal Kombat, you had combo moves, right? And you have to remember all the button presses, right? But in that world, it's a 2D plane. Even though if it's 3D game, you're one character here, another character there, and you're facing off. This is that world but you're walking through the world in almost an open world type of fashion. They're all linear hallways basically, but you have to remember the combos at any time. You can't button mash. You know, you have to remember that your sweep is up down with a Y. You have to remember that certain power moves require combinations at a quick succession. You know, the block needs to be ready to go, and you can't block all the time. If you see the line at the bottom of my screen there, the little yellow line, if you block too much, it breaks your block, right? And then all of a sudden you're open to basically getting completely owned. So you have to, it has to be a combination of blocking as well as fast movement. Move yourself. There's ways of moving out of the way of the pending shot. You know, there's an up shot and lower shot, and depending on how you move, you're able to bounce. Like basically you are a ghost and they can't get their hands on you. It is so difficult. But once you master it, it is one of the best. It is the evolution of the beat 'em up, like absolutely. And I am imploring NetherRealm to see this game and make a Mortal Kombat game, an adventure Mortal Kombat game in this style. Like when you hit the hit, it's so hard, so you feel it. It is so well done. If you look at the graphics,
it gives me that Shaolin monks vibe. Remember that Shaolin monks vibe?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. The graphics don't look particularly fantastical. I was playing this on PC. Like on my PC, I was getting like 200 plus frames per second. It's just it uses resources so well that, you know, anybody with any kind of decent PC can get good frame rate out of it. It's not about that. It's not about the graphics. Even though the graphics are cool, the style is very cool. You know, in later levels, it's very abstract almost, where you'll be fighting and there'll just be rain everywhere, and all you see is your character and rain, and maybe a little bit of light on you, and there are enemies coming at you from all aspects. Expect to die a whole lot, and that's where the roguelike elements come in that you were asking about, John.
Okay.
When you die, basically the simplicity of the story is, you know, somebody killed your family. You know, it's your 80s movie, right? Somebody came in, killed you, and killed your family and killed you. But you have this ancient rune, this ancient ring thing that you have, and it gives you life. It brings you back to life. But every time you die, you start at 20. If you die once, you get up at 21, right?
Okay.
If you die again, you'll get up at 22. After that, 24, 26, 28, and it compounds and compounds. But there are like mini bosses, really hard mini bosses within the levels that you're playing. If you're able to conquer some of them, it drops your counter back down. So instead of dying double, like coming back with double the age, you come back with the next age. So it incentivizes you to go seek out and fight as many of these guys as you can, because if you're able to accomplish it, then it brings your age down. Now, the thing that makes it even more interesting is there are 5 levels, just 5, right? And every time you finish a level, it calculates your age and your death. So the next time you start a new level, you will start where you ended the last time. So I am now at the museum, and I am 28, if I'm not mistaken. So every time I start the game, unless I want to start from scratch, I will start the museum at 28. If you're 70-something and you start at the museum, good luck, you're dead, because you will die over and over and over again. After you reach a certain threshold of age, I think it's mid-30s, then your punching becomes harder, your damage becomes more, but your health gets lower, basically like we all do.
Do you think that that's where the criticism is coming from? That I'm seeing that it's only like 5 levels, and that's where people are kind of saying
that's people who have not paid attention to the game. That's people who just hear, oh, there's only 5 levels. Yeah, you're going to be playing that. I've been playing it for about 10, 12 hours, and I'm on level 3 of 5.
Wow.
And it took me almost 4 hours just to get past level 3. It is very, very difficult. And it's not difficult as in unfairly difficult. You know, it's not unfairly difficult. It is difficult because you must remember the combinations. You must remember the systems. You have to be blocking. You know how we always used to criticize games back in the day, like you're in a brawl and everybody's fighting you, and they just all stand there and wait for you to beat up on the first guy before the other guy shows up. Yeah, that's not this game. You're in the middle of you're brawling, you're doing stuff. There's a dude out of nowhere behind you. Bam, one shot, you're down. depending on how hard the shot is. They are coming at you from all angles all the time. They are like vicious and aggressive. They got weapons. They'll beat you when you're down. It is vicious, but it is all within your purview. If you get good, you are a ghost. No matter where the shots are coming, it's like boom, boom, boom. You're sticking and moving, you're dodging. It is absolutely the best. See, and I just beat a really hard boss, so now I went from 1 to 0. So now if I die again, it'll just be 1 instead of doubling. Right. The best compliment I can give this game is it is the evolution of the beat 'em up of the 90s and the 80s. You know, Bad Dudes and Double Dragon and all that. You couldn't do those games fully today the way they were. Right. You'd have to add systems. You'd have to evolve it to a certain level. This is the evolution of that. And it is hard as knocks, baby. It is like, but it's so rewarding when you figure it out. I didn't record the later levels because frankly, I was dying too much and I didn't want to have that on video. but when you in the later levels, oh my goodness, you are Bruce Lee. You are, put in your favorite 90s, 80s, protagonist in there. That's you, because man, you need to pull out all the stops just to survive for like a single encounter. Anyone can end you over and over and over and over. You can go into a fight at 20 something and end the fight at 70 something, and then you're done.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Let me tell you.
It is so cool. Now, if the likes of NetherRealm do take this idea and run with it, I may want them to drop some of the systems, because it is so difficult that it will turn off a lot of viewers, a lot of players. It is just too difficult for its own good. It is really, really, and I like it because, and I think I get it, because it's the same idea as to why games used to be hard back then, right? Those games weren't that long, but they were so hard and it required you to learn them that you got many hours out of it, right? If this game was somewhat easy, or if it had a dialer for difficulty level, you could finish it in 40 hours, 40 minutes. And then it'd be like, oh, I spent how much money and I only spent 40 minutes on it. That's why this game is this difficult. It forces you to get to its level. Yeah. Right.
It's the Dark Souls of beat 'em ups, in other words.
Basically, and that is why you'll be 10, 12, 15 hours in and you're still going. And it because as hard as it is, as much as they beat your head in, when you finally land that right combination and you just smoke somebody, you're just like, oh my God, I'm a ninja. This is the greatest game on earth. It is so good. It is so good. So yes, I would suggest anyone who is not prone to throwing their controller, because if you are, you will. Please be careful. Save a controller. Save a DualShock, a DualSense. Save an Xbox controller. I played this on PC. Where you can play whatever controller choice you want. This doesn't necessarily show off any real PlayStation 5 features as far as the controller DualSense or whatever, but it's not about that. So like this is one of the big end bosses.
You're saying that you don't have to blow into the controller to finish anyone off.
You don't have to blow the controller to finish this off. You may blow into the controller because your hand will start hurting, but that's a whole different conversation. This game is epically good. It really is. And some of the decisions they made were indie decisions, and as such, people will have criticism for it. I hope that folks see how great the ideas are here and they expound on it and maybe get a more full featured picture together. But I want to see beat 'em ups in this style. I want to see future games, your River City Ransom, your Double Dragons of old come back in some way and implore this. Please give me that Mortal Kombat game that's an adventure game, third-person action adventure game, just like this, where combos need to be remembered, all that. This is awesome. So, yes, enough. Yes, I see Pixel G in the chat saying, pause. I apologize.
You're excited about it, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Indeed. So I've been playing this. This has been taking up a lot of my time. And because of that, I was looking at Dying Light with a side eye, like, I need to get into this, man. But I will definitely do so. It just might take me a little bit once I finally get past this. I'm on level 3 of 5, and I'm still going for it. I'm going to try and finish this up. Besides this, go ahead.
Want to, after you beat it, see if you can. What's the lowest age you can beat the game at?
Yes,
that's the next objective, right?
Yes, that's going to be the interesting thing. I want to see those who have way more patience and way more skill than me beat this game at 20. Oh boy. if you can beat this game at 20, wow, you are a gaming ninja, as the Iron Lord Cognito says. You are the gaming ninja at that point. Because man, this game, like it challenges you. This is old school challenge from way back when they had the coin op where they were out to steal your quarters. Yeah, this is not out to steal your quarters. This is out to steal your time. It will, if you're patient, you'll get there, but you need to learn a lot to get to that level. But it's a great game. Obviously, it's only on PlayStation and on PC right now. I'm sure that just like the other, I forget the name of the developer, but much like their other games that have been released on here, eventually it came to Xbox. So if you don't have a capability of playing it on PC or on PlayStation 5, when this comes out on Xbox, which inevitably I'm hoping it will, seek it out. Maybe it'll be on Game Pass, make it easier on you, but still, it is definitely a game worth playing. And don't listen to anybody that says it's a quick little game. It is not. It is definitely not.
And to piggyback off what Mav said, slow-mo backslap, who's in the chat, says that there's a trophy achievement for beating it at 25. So it looks like definitely want to challenge yourself there.
Hard-earned achievement. Whoa. Oh, and thank you, Slow-mo. The developer is Slow Clap. Because slow-mo backslap knows who claps back. So yes,
there
Slow Clap. I appreciate you. Thank you, sir. yes. Other game I've been playing real quick before we hit some news stories. I've been going back into finishing up God of War PC.
Okay.
Still love that game. One of the greatest games ever made, bar none. If you haven't played it, you definitely should. It is awesome, graphically, absolutely fantastic. And you might see some more gameplay of that in this as we're going. I won't go too much into that, but if you've played it, the game you're dealing with. It is absolutely fantastic. And two final games. One game that I've been playing for fun, and I always do, and people clown me for doing so, but I will continue to do so because it is absolutely fantastic. Cyberpunk 2077. I'm still playing that. I have hours of footage of me just driving around the world, getting into trouble. I'm halfway through the story because I kind of don't want to finish it until the next gen patch comes out. I want to see the game in its final form.
I'm waiting for. Yeah, I'm waiting for that next gen patch to really dive deep into it.
Yeah, I want to see the game in its final form. It is brilliant. The storyline is pretty good. I would say that the as CD Projekt Red likes to do, the side quests tend to be a bit more fascinating and more impressive than the actual main quests are. I just love driving around that world and enjoying it, and it's real fun. And finally, and people saw me probably posted on Twitter, Operation Dad Bod is in full effect. As you get older and the kids are around, you gotta get yourself right, as they say. So and of course, with work and kids and gaming to try and have content for the show, it limits your time a little bit. So I've been playing a lot of Beat Saber for workout purposes, and I've been enjoying the hell out of that. As some may know, in a previous life I was a bit of a musician. I have a lot of instruments that I play, and because of that, I love the Guitar Hero Rock Band type of genre game. And this is that, but with lightsabers. I've gotten pretty damn good. I'm playing like hard or expert on a lot of songs, so I like that game. And
you're playing that on the Quest?
Well, I'm a bit of a VR snob. I have the Valve Index right over there, and I also have the Quest. The Index gives you a lot more clarity, but the problem is you have a cable. The Quest gives you a lot more freedom, but then the quality is not that great. And also, as they do, Meta wants to charge you for everything, like everything. And I don't mind paying for everything, but not all of the music there I like, and I like to keep it at a certain upbeat clip. So when I do it on PC itself, and you can also do it on Quest, but I don't do it as much, but you can add your own custom songs into it. And there's a whole community has sprung up that will put on songs that Oculus and Facebook would never be able to get their hands on. So you can literally go in and like add your own songs. They've had custom workout. It's meant for workout routines. So I can like go at it for a long time and close all my rings in like one shot. So that's what I do. It's been fun. I continue to do it just to kind of, get up and move and all that. I really do enjoy it. So that's what I've been playing. I've been getting into it. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I might actually start streaming VR properly if I can get a setup to like work out the logistics of a setup so that it can be visible. Right now, the problem is like people in VR use their head to move around a lot. And when you're in VR doing it, it seems fine. But when you watch it back later, it's all shaky and jittery and crazy. And it's not as appealing to view. So that's kind of stopped me a little bit from posting too much of that stuff. But the last game that I've been playing will lead us into the first story we want to talk about. So I tried a bit of this CrossFire X stuff.
Ooh, poor you.
I tried some CrossFire X. Okay, so we know Remedy. We love Remedy. We were talking before the show started that Remedy. They unfortunately they have not been able to have the best of luck on Xbox platforms. Every time they have a game out, it's critically acclaimed, but it doesn't tend to make the numbers that maybe justify it being warranting maybe a sequel or something like that. And I unfortunately, I think this is one of those as well. So it was very weird to me. And in the show notes, I posted, it's broken. And for some reason, Microsoft isn't saying anything. Usually when, and we've had many games pop up in Game Pass. Some work great from day one. Some have had issues or whatever, but usually they are out there quickly, fast with the response. You have your Aaron Greenbergs and the rest of them out there going, hey, we're working on it. We got you. We're going to solve the problems, this and that. For now, though, they have been notoriously quiet. You've seen Smilegate's YouTube, Twitter channels come out and say, hey, we noticed there are issues. We're working on it. We promise. But that's about it. And that happened the first day it showed up. And it's just been like that ever since. If you go into the game, and this is the single player I'm talking about. So for those that don't know, they split up the single player in two. One of the single players is made by Remedy, the other is made by Smilegate, and then the multiplayer component that wraps around it is a free-to-play game. So before we get too far deep into it, Mav, have you tried CrossFire X? What do you think of CrossFire X? How much do you hate CrossFire X?
I don't hate anything.
Okay. Right? Okay, fine. How disappointed are you in CrossFire X?
I'm not disappointed at all because I saw this coming.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like I tried to warn people, like people I'm like, why are you excited for this game? Like, okay. Because I get being excited for certain things for certain reasons, but the only reason people have been excited somewhat for this is because Remedy's name is attached to it. But Remedy's name is only attached to this
one side of the single player
little campaign thing that we've never even seen anything from. Right? So we've never seen the campaign. Remedy's name was attached to it. The only people that saw it were like people that got to preview it like a few months ago, and all of them said it was bad. Like if you go into like the IGN, they have an article that Destin Legary, who I trust his opinion on.
Yeah, I like Destin a lot. Yes,
gave a preview. He's like, "Wow, this is just very generic and not very good." Right, and that was on a preview. These guys are usually very positive with preview, right? In fact, it's been burned in the past so many times. When I was younger, about reading previews, getting hyped for a game, then it comes out and it's like broken, doesn't work. It's like really bad.
Kanan Lynch comes to mind.
Hey. I will not allow any Kanan Lynch slander, sir. That was
just
a good
saying,
game.
man. Just saying.
But like this game, man, it's like. Now I was telling you this before, like we went live. Like you remember last generation, there was like a few different like mobile first-person shooter free-to-play ports that were also available on console, right?
Yeah.
PlayStation and Xbox had a few of these, and I don't even remember their names. But I've tried all of them if they were free, and you could probably find them now. All of those are better than this game. I played the beta on this when it was in the Insider program.
And you're speaking specifically on the multiplayer, right?
Yes. I have not. Here's the other thing. I have not had a chance to try this single player campaign, which people I know that have played it said it's not that much better. They say it's a little bit better, but they say it's not that much better. They say it's generic, kind of boring, but it has some interesting things to it. I'm guessing the interesting things is like the bullet time, the slow down time aspect you can do, right? But I've watched gameplay on it, and it doesn't look good. I'm sorry. It just like for me, like Remedy's name being attached to this was like, okay, it's interesting, right? It's like cool that they're doing a first-person shooter, but I think this was just like a
This wasn't Remedy's take on Call of Duty.
No, like, that's kind of how it got marketed, because that's how they were marketing the game, like CrossFire X, Remedy, right? Because that's the only selling aspect that this game had, is just the name Remedy, right? So it got pushed out there, and a lot of people assumed this was Remedy's next big thing, right? And it's never been that. It's never been that, right? Like, it's never been that from the start. When this is something that they got hired to do because they probably needed money, and they were assigned this project. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds cool. We'll give it a shot. And they did it, right? So that's only one aspect. I haven't played that. Supposedly it's different and it's a little bit better. But even that's broken because it's supposed to be in Game Pass. And it's not there. I've never seen this before. This game, like the Operation Catalyst, it was supposed to be in Game Pass, right?
Yes, it was.
They said it last week to hey, for any confusion out there, everybody, Operation Catalyst, the first of the campaigns, which was another weird thing. That's the first we'd even ever heard of there being
that there was going to be split up. We thought there was a campaign by Remedy. And then we hear it's half a campaign by Remedy.
So the week before launch, we find out that there's multiple campaigns in this game that's supposed to come out. Like how come we didn't know about this before? We all thought it was one campaign.
Hey,
surprise!
We have found one user in our chat. Thank you so much. He says, I am enjoying the single player campaign. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Some people like the Venom. Some people like the Venom.
I've had some people say they're like,
I have found a Sasquatch in the wild. Good sir. I hope you could expound on what you like about it. I would love to hear it.
So I've talked to a couple other people that say they're like, hey, it's kind of enjoyable. It is what it is. It's a cheap game, right? But like, a cheap game doesn't deserve the hype that people were giving some of this stuff, right? Like, this is a cheap game, exactly what it is. But it's also, for me, a bad cheap game. For the multiplayer, I haven't touched the single player because that's broken. Can't access it with Game Pass like you're supposed to be able to. I'm waiting for that fix. It's really strange. You're supposed to, like, if you click on the campaign in the game, it takes you to a thing to purchase it at a discount because of Game Pass. It's regular $9.99. You get a 10% discount with Game Pass, so it's $8.99. It's supposed to be free with Game Pass. So it's not working. And
so let me add some color to your statement here. If you look on my screen, you see what the Crossfire YouTube, the Crossfire Twitter communication for it was. We are aware of keyword some.
Can we cross that
members.
out? Put all,
all. You need to put a cross on that. A cross.
That's my point.
On some there.
That is exactly my point. Some Game Pass members unable to access Operation Catalyst. Have we gotten confirmation from any Xbox Game Pass subscribers who have been able to access Operation Catalyst without paying for it?
I just tried this morning, guys. About an hour into the show, I'm like, let me jump into the game. I couldn't find a single player. It wanted me to pay $9, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pay $9 for this.
And shout out to Lucius Augustus, who's joined us. Thank you, good sir, for joining. He says Xbox has removed the game from the Game Pass app, and you can't find it through Xbox Game Pass section. My question is this, okay? Clearly,
remove it from Xbox. Period.
Well, please. This is my question. Clearly, Smilegate, maybe Remedy. Well, not to a lesser extent Remedy, because they were just a hired help to do their piece of the puzzle, which they've done. As good or as bad as it is, those of us who haven't played it don't know. But Smilegate published this thing. Xbox allowed it in their store. Why is it that this is kind of unlike Microsoft, where something blows up? Yeah. This is kind of unlike Microsoft, where something blows up and they're not quick to come out to the public and say, hey, we know this is going on. They're basically taking a step back like this and letting all the arrows fall on Crossfire, they well deserve. But usually you'll hear, Aaron Greenberg's out there, we're working on the issue or whatever. They're letting this broken, it's not on Game Pass thing sit. They suspiciously remove it from the Game Pass section, and they'll just mum's the word.
They said on Twitter that we're investigating the issue of why this is not showing up for Game Pass members, right? So they did it.
Xbox did this?
Yes, Xbox.
Okay,
did,
okay.
All right. So as far as this game even being here and being tied to Game Pass and being associated with Xbox, I think it goes back to those times. You got to think about where Xbox was at this time when this deal came together and it was originally announced. You're talking about back in 2017, probably early 2018. This is before all these acquisitions. This is before this new Xbox really got into the full fold, right? This was a deal that they had signed contracts for. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna awesome. This was one of the most played games in the East. This is gonna be awesome for our platform.
1 billion users
yeah.
of the original CrossFire in 2020 in the Asian region.
Phil goes on stage, CrossFire is coming to Xbox, and everybody's like, what the hell is CrossFire? Right? Yeah. But everybody in the East knows what CrossFire is, right? It's like, okay, cool. And supposedly they're enjoying this. So they're used to this, right? Because
but let's be fair here. What they're playing is not what we're playing. This is an offshoot of the original Crossfire.
No, they're
Crossfire has a lot more stages. That Crossfire is meant for PC. It's a keyboard and mouse. Supposedly that game, and shout out to Risky for the Biscuit. I was on their show, Xbox Ultimate, yesterday, and he says he's played it before, and that original Crossfire is a decent game if you like your what's the name of that game?
Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike. If you're a Counter-Strike type player, this is for them for that.
No,
this game that we're playing here is not that.
What I'm talking about is the same guys in the East that liked Crossfire like this game as well. Because it came out. Yeah. I've heard for several of them on Twitter are I had this joke post that blew up, right? And so I've gotten a lot of comments on it. Right. So I went through the comments, and there's a lot of people out there that loved the first one that also loved this one. Now, for me, what that boils down to is in China, in China and those territories back when Counter-Strike was a thing, like this was their Counter-Strike, right?
True. Yes.
This was theirs, right? Like they didn't have a lot of the Western games there, right, to play. So this was their like free-to-play big shooter that blew up, and everybody kind of got accustomed into it because it's what it was. Like, so this was the evolution of that. And for us here, we're used to playing all these we're used to playing Call of Duty. We're used to playing Battlefield, Apex Legends, Halo Infinite, even like Rogue Company, like his third-person shooter, but even mechanically and stuff, that game's really solid, right? Like there's a lot of shooters that come out really frequently here, and we're really used to the way the controls kind of feel, the way everything is accustomed. And when you played this game, Crossfire X, which I think Xbox realized they missed the mark on this one at some point in the development when they started testing it. I think after that beta that hit 2 years ago, which is really weird. It's a long time for a beta to come out before a game comes out.
Before a game comes out,
and then nothing really changes from that beta to now, right? I think that Xbox at that point realized, oh, well, we missed the mark on this. This isn't what we thought it was, right?
But in the past, even after they missed the mark on something, they still are quick to own it because it's theirs.
Yeah, but look at all the marketing they did up to lead up. There's none.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Xbox is almost distancing themselves away from this.
Basically,
exactly. And remember, they don't want people to associate this game with Game Pass. Unfortunately, even though it's there and it is what it is, they don't want this to be like, hey, this is a quality you can expect.
More fodder for Game Pass.
They fulfilled their contractual obligations for marketing that they had signed up and set in progress before. Right? They fulfilled those. This game is there. It's supposed to be in Game Pass now. That I don't know if that's a Smilegate thing, right? I think it potentially is, right? I think it potentially is because the system's built within the game, right? Who knows exactly why that's happening? So this is a very interesting, weird thing, and I think that I think it's just because of a decision they made at that time when they were desperate for content.
Shout out to Mr. Boomstick. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Yes, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I think when they were desperate for content, they made this deal, and now it's coming out well, we missed the mark on this one. This is not going to be representative of us, but it's still still got to do what we said we're going to do. We're getting through this. But man, yeah, like Slow-Mo said, for them to release the game like this, the controls, to give an example, I know some people enjoy it. Whatever, I get it. The controls are broken.
Yes,
flat out. They feel horrible.
The controls are literally meant for keyboard mouse. So I watched Slow-Mo play this on stream.
Man,
You're like, it's like hitting the broadside of a barn. You're like,
Yeah,
you're shooting all over
enemies. The enemies when they're running around, their like limbs are just like wigging out like this, like all over the place. You know, it's just crazy, right? And you can see them off in the distance. It's like,
Mav, what's the first thing that I asked you guys when in the green room? I said, "Hey guys, is it just me, or how do you aim down sights?" Because the very first thing there says is that sometimes the aim down sights goes in and out. I couldn't even aim down the sights.
Well, so there's a modern and a classic. So if you play classic, there's no aim down sights. It's like classic Counter-Strike. If you play modern, there's aim down sights. But even that's broken on the first gun you start out with. You use the aim down sights, and then it glitches out sometimes in the middle of you firing and pulls you out of the sight.
So let's not all just keep hating on this thing. Okay,
let
me say one positive thing. One positive
thing.
You can uninstall it.
It's free.
This man is out here for blood.
I'm just clowning.
Well, okay, I'll give you a positive thing on my note. One thing I thought was interesting, which I hope somebody steals, is in game, while you're shooting people left and right, you're building up XP, and then at some point it gives you the option on the D-pad to hit a button, and you can choose different loadouts and different suits. So while you're fighting and you press the button, and now you can be the boogeyman suit, which gives you a lot more armor. You can become a bit of a bullet sponge for a minute, and you dual wield like automatic weapons. So you're just running around much faster. Yeah. And you could dual wield automatic weapon. That's an interesting one. And then there's another suit that gives you a scope. It gives you like a sniper type of a loadout weapon, and you can be stealth, like literally the whole thing. You turn almost as if you picked up like an invisible shield or something like that, so you can basically blend into the environment. Interesting ideas. So the more you shoot, the more XP you gain, and with that, you can then upgrade your stuff to more interesting loadouts and whatnot.
Yeah,
I saw that and thought, hey, that's cool, but surrounded by the broken game, it's
broken. It doesn't look good. It controls horribly. It doesn't sound. The audio quality is really bad as well. I mean, it's just like the spawning.
Slow-mo out here going for blood. He goes, that damn boogeyman suit is broken.
I got one more thing. I got real quick before I got one more thing. The other one positive thing before John gets to his points across on this is the most positive thing about this game is you will be way more forgiving of every other game that you play.
This makes Battlefield look good, right? Is that what you're saying?
Every game is going to look way better after you play CrossFire X.
Play this.
Come on, guys.
John, what do you think?
Come on, guys. X gonna give it to you guys. Come on, right? Literally. Look, I in preparation, I saw the bad press this was getting, all the hate it was getting. So I'm like, it can't be that bad, right? Like I'm like, no way, it can't be that bad. So I went ahead in preparation for the stream. I played about an hour and a half this morning. Like I said, the very first thing, that's on me. Couldn't figure out how to aim down sights. That's a me problem, apparently. There was a point that I did turn into. I gather up enough kills to get this boogeyman, right, that everybody's talking about. That is the most OP perk I have ever seen. I was mowing down people. I felt like if I was just playing what's that Android game called, the Fruit Ninja? That's exactly what I was doing. I was just mowing down everybody just left and right. I'm like, what am I? This is like mindless fun that you're having here, because people keep on spawning from the same. I was playing team
spawn camping is big out there. Yep, very true.
I mean, they're just coming out of this little room. They keep on getting worked, and they just keep on doing it over and over again, repetitive. And I'm like, man, I was expecting kind of, and it's a me problem, but I was expecting Call of Duty clone, I guess a lesser quality. I don't know what I was expecting, but honestly, what we got is a mobile game wrapped up in some AAA release that they're trying to portray this as. That's my opinion, of course. I see people in the chat. Some people are like, it's not that bad. I had to disagree with that because
we respectfully disagree, good sirs.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a game that I want to put any more time into. The single player, even though that Remedy aspect, I'm a big Remedy fan. I really like their cinematic, approach to games. I do want to try it out, at least to say that I tried it. But honestly, I'm not looking forward to it at all. And with all the good games, on the horizon and recently released, it's hard to justify this one, guys.
Horizon.
Yeah, exactly. You like that? It's hard to justify this. And I think it was you, Mav, were you the one that put the picture on Twitter with the Band-Aid across the recent releases.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I mean, that it's getting kind of the flack it kind of deserves, man. In this day and age,
you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
I mean, you're gonna release a game like this, and you're kind of asking for it. It looks like a big cash in. I do agree with a comment I see here that Remedy took the money to make Alan Wake 2. Absolutely, 100%. The fact that Remedy just associated themselves with this game, it was just for money. I mean, it's so clear as day for me.
We'll get off this topic, but let me end with my tinfoil hat theory on this. So there's no love lost between Remedy and Xbox, in my humble opinion. There have been many really interesting ideas that Remedy has presented, and when those games don't hit as great as they should, Microsoft does not allow them to greenlight the next one. Alan Wake being a prime example. Recently, what's the other game before Control? Darn it! Now the name escapes me. The name
Quantum Break.
Quantum Break being another one, which I genuinely loved. Unlike most, I dug the whole TV thing and then right into the game thing. I agree that the budget of the TV thing was a little bit less than, and they could have put more into it. But I thought the idea was fresh. It was interesting.
You're Iceman, dude. You're Iceman.
Had Iceman in it. How can you go wrong? But of course, once again, when they wanted to continue the Quantum Break franchise, Microsoft said nope, and then they eventually went to 505 Games and the Control and all of that. So and it has been reported that Smilegate was the one who basically hired Remedy to do the piece of the puzzle that they did. Had nothing to do with Xbox, had nothing to do with Microsoft. Smilegate came with Remedy already in tow because they'd already hired them to do this. So my tinfoil hat theory is they were like, well, it's not going well. It's a cash grab. Yeah, it's for Microsoft Xbox anyway. We don't like them, so screw it. Let's just get something out there and keep it moving. We have Alan Wake coming, and it's going to be on PlayStation and everywhere else. Finally, you know what I'm saying? That's what I think a little bit of this might be. They're like, well, it's for Xbox. Let's keep it moving. I hope I'm wrong, but it really seems to be pointing in that direction, and it's unfortunate. But okay.
Do you think there's a world where Xbox could actually remove this from the store? Period. I mean, look at what happened last year with Cyberpunk and PlayStation, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, Matt, because even though the hour and a half that I played today, even though some of the loading to get into a match and stuff like that was a little long, in my opinion, it's not broken like Cyberpunk.
It's a bad game. It's not a broken game.
Exactly. The game works. The game worked for the hour and a half that I played. It's not. I don't think it's like Cyberpunk where the game is crashing.
And about that, real quick, about that Cyberpunk when they removed it from the store, I think that's a different conversation altogether that we've stopped having. Like, Microsoft never removed it from the store because they just told you, hey, out front, just so you know, if you're on the old gen console, you may want to be careful because this game doesn't play that well. I genuinely think that PlayStation removed this from the store because they got sick and tired of people trying to get their money back and realizing that the return policy is non-existent.
Oh, and let me add something.
They don't want to bring attention to that. So they remove from the store. There'll be nobody trying to get a return and then it not working and then going, really? PlayStation has no return policy?
Yeah, and let me add something that a lot of people don't know. I see it at work because I'm on the fraud side. Once you do a chargeback, once you request your bank to do a chargeback to the PlayStation, they actually can lock your account. And I'm sure that they got so much of that they must have been like, hey, this is too overwhelming.
Exactly. They don't want to change their return policy. And this is not me bashing because I honestly think this is a problem that needs to be solved. Right? Steam and all these other platforms have it. If you've played for X amount of hours, pick your arbitrary time, 4 hours or whatever. If you've bought it and not played it at all, they should allow for an easy return policy, especially considering that the game is well documented to be broken. But instead of actually, doing that work and changing those policies, PlayStation instead has no return policy on games that, like, in this situation that helps. So instead of bringing attention to it and then potentially getting pressure to change it, they then took it off the store. That's a whole different situation. Now, of course, at that time, CDPR was getting their righteous anger thrown at them. So nobody wanted to split focus and go, why is there no return policy for digital games on PlayStation? That's why they did that, because they wanted move along, nothing to see here, because it's still a problem to this day.
Yeah, I just hate that this game is even associated with the Xbox name.
True, very true, very true.
Come on, it has an X on it, Matt.
That's why I put the Band-Aid there. It's like, well, this hurts,
X gonna give it to you.
Yes. Oh, I see Neo Mentos in the chat. Welcome, good sir. I love Neo. Neo's great. Boom's brother, if you don't know. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you pulling up. The last thing on CrossFire X, there have been other games that have been multiplayer centric games that come like Grounded, for instance, right? It comes into Game Pass as a beta, right? There's the game with all the multiplayer game that had a bunch of dwarfs that you were digging through various planets and mining resources.
Oh yeah. That's a good game. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I forget the name as well. That came into Game Pass, came onto Xbox as a beta, and it stayed there. Anybody could buy it, and it was at a cheap price, but it was a beta for years until they finished the game, and now it's a full release. That's what this should have been, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the OG Crossfire, there was a lot of modes, a lot of maps, a lot of very over time learned knowledge that makes that game great, right? Had they kept Crossfire as a beta for years, they could go, okay, now we're tuning the controls. Guess what? It's a beta. Now we're adding more maps. Guess what? It's the beta. But instead, they're like, here's the full game. And people are like, what game? This is a horrible mess. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with Slow-Mo. After this week, you'll never hear about Crossfire X.
True.
I agree with that.
True. Most definitely. Yes, my man.
It's crazy that there's such diehard Xbox fans that they'll defend this game.
Oh, there's no defending. There's just no defending.
Come on, man.
Regardless of everything, it's like, no, we have to look for the glimmer of one little positive thing, and we have to scream that out there. I'm enjoying it. Hey, I get it, right? I'm super positive usually about games, right? I don't like to rag on games, but when something releases like this, it is unacceptable. It's not okay. Period.
Very true.
On any platform, this game is just bad. It screams
Absolutely.
of low budget, money's hungry, just horrible. It's free to play, but it's monetization is crazy within it. And if you're gonna pick something that's free to play, that's full of monetization, play something better than Crossfire X.
True.
It's got a boogeyman in it, Matt. What do you mean?
It's
got a boogeyman in it.
It is unoptimized. Even the menu system sucks.
It's
you can't,
absolutely terrible. Yes.
Confusing,
makes no sense.
It takes forever for anything to load in, and even to move your cursor on the screen.
What about when you first? What about when you first load it up, and then it makes you go through that long terms of agreement, and then dude, it just keeps on scrolling and scrolling. It's like the 10 Commandments.
Even that didn't work at first. I had to hit submit 20 times before it actually worked the first time.
Oh man,
this is so unoptimized, so just choppy and I mean,
I disagree with Slow-Mo on one point though. This is not the last we will hear of it, because I will continue to wave that flag until we see it in Game Pass. This is not going to disappear and then all of a sudden it never shows up. There it goes. It says it right on the screen. We apologize for the inconvenience. We are working on it as soon as possible. Even if it takes 5 years, I want to see Catalyst playable on Game Pass so that we can play it and go, yeah, this was generic and crap. But still, I want to see it because you said so. I'm not going to let y'all get away with that. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But yes, I completely agree that this is a righteous black eye for Xbox, even though they're trying to distance themselves. And I think that's probably why they are distancing themselves, because there's just no good way around it. This is a righteous black eye for them. They should have known better. They should have possibly pushed it back. They should have, fought the good fight on the behalf of the consumer, because this does not look good for them. But okay, so let's play a little. Let's talk about a few little other slight things before we get into the main topic of conversation that I wanted to talk about today. In 2022, it looks like gaming and the game consoles, and you guys tend to be console gamers, are getting better. Right, we have a few little news stories that lend to that. One of which being on Xbox, for instance, they're doing a pin system for quick resume. Very interesting things there. And if you don't understand what that means, and this is the one of the developers that actually works on the UI. So every once in a while she'll tell you what's going on, and it's always interesting to follow her on Twitter. So I always follow her and get the new stuff. Right now, it's not available to the masses just yet. They're testing it out in the insider program. They said it was going to be available. It might be pushed back a little bit, but it is coming. Basically, a game that you love, that you play a lot of, you can literally pin it to your quick resume. Other quick resumes may come and go, because I think it's about 8 or so, depending on the size of the game. But these 2 pinned ones will always be there. You can shut your system down. You can reboot the system. You can upgrade. You can do a system update. It'll still be there. When you resume, it'll be right there. Very cool features like that. That's coming out. They're also talking about letting you remap your share button to other things. That's also quite interesting. And not to be outdone, PlayStation is now fully integrating Discord into the PS5, which is also quite cool for those who are big into the Discord. So I guess my question is, what other cool other features that you think, because these things are far more capable now than they've ever been, what other interesting features do you feel that they're missing, that they should be adding? It seems like some of these things tend to be like, well, we're looking for something to add. Let's add this. This might be cool. What do you think they should be prioritizing? I'll start with you, Mav.
Better streaming capabilities.
Yes,
100%.
Yes.
I mean, in this world where we're capturing everything, people are streaming everything, making it easier for people to have access and have better quality, even like on the very generic setups and stuff. Why don't they have like an app that's a Sidekick app that you have that's kind of tied to it, that's dedicated for an Xbox or PlayStation, that has like overlays and all these kind of things. There's third-party companies that do this stuff, but like you could easily have some implementation there to make it easier for streamers.
They are doing console streaming overlays. It is starting to happen, by the way.
Yeah,
it's starting to get there.
In PlayStation or on the Xbox.
On the Xbox, they are starting to. They're letting you plug in. What do you call it? They're letting you plug in video webcams. They're doing little overlays, not like custom overlays. They're not taking it all the way
I mean,
there,
like more
but
custom
it's starting.
Stuff. Yeah, like I know you can put like your camera and stuff like that. You can like position it on the screen, but like I would love to see more of that, and also better video capturing functionality on both platforms. And I know Xbox gets most of the ragging on this, but like, because their systems right now just don't work very well at all. But overall, just better tools for that. When you clip something, like automatically have it go into a like specific categories and folders, and all depending on the kinds of games you're playing, and all of this kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of things that they started with Upload Studio back in the day.
Oh, I love
that program. And they got away from it. It was sluggish, what I mean? Because it was a little big for what the system could.
It was more capable than the OG Xbox can handle. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right. So I think if they really put some more work into some of this stuff, I think it could be great. And then, man, I mean, really, there's not a lot to really pick on or think about, because they're getting so good with a lot of these things, and occasionally you can kind of think of something that pops in your head, but I would like to see more of a standard of forcing games to have the 60 frames per second default option, right?
Okay.
Like, just none of this goes into not necessarily like services and stuff, but like we should be past 30 frames. Right.
Yeah.
Period. I understand having stuff for like, you want to take pictures and stuff like that. But if anybody that's playing a game at 30 and then you get used to playing games at 60, when you go back to 30, it's like, wow, it looks bad, it plays bad. I mean, everything. It's a drastic leap. And I was not like this before the Series X, because I hadn't really experienced too much of it. Right. I was like, I want 4K, but like 60 frames, it should be the standard and build up from there. Personally, now we don't necessarily want to force things on developers, because maybe certain things are only capable in certain ways. But if you launch a game like Uncharted Lost Legacy has that 4K 30 mode is like the quality mode, and that's like a old game.
Well, okay, so let me interject a little bit there with that. The problem with your 60 frames and all of that is, Microsoft has trained the consumers in a way that is great for us, but untenable for developers, because depending on how you built the game, 60 frames is either very easy to achieve, or it requires unraveling almost the entire game to get that to work, and then doing a lot of work putting it back together so that the 60 frames can be smooth, because there's a lot of animation happening at a lot of times. Shout out to Halo Infinite. Still, to this day,
have a 60 frames mode in Uncharted Lost Legacy.
True, they do. But my point is, to this day, even though Halo Infinite, I can play it at 120 frames per second on my PC. Whenever the gun reloads, it's at 30 frames per second. Whenever there's yes, because the way that game was built, the decisions that were made lent to a static frame rate, right? Some pieces of that game are static in their frame rate. What Microsoft has done so well is they use virtual machines. For those who don't know, they are inside the game. It's a physical box. Right. Think of a physical box, but outside the game, it's software that can be tweaked on the outside. So they have tweaked software on the outside enough to where the inside of the game responds as 60 frames, even though it wasn't originally built that way. But that is also another reason why not every single game that plays on 360 is now here. On the new one, because not like this is like I'm saying about the decisions they made. Not every game just you hit a button, it goes to 60 frames, and then it works perfectly. Some of them freak out because they're built a certain way, right?
The thing is, on these new games, right? These new games, especially that are coming out, or even the remasters where they're going in and doing some of these, because some of them like it works fine at 60, right? Like Uncharted, like it has a 60 frames mode. Right,
but and like Uncharted, they had to actually unravel that game and build it back up. It's not one of those that can easily be done. But please continue.
So as far as so let's say a game comes out, they have 4K 30 with ray tracing, or not 4K 30. They have 1440 30 with ray tracing as like the primary mode. Like it takes time for these devs to optimize and do all this stuff, and I think ray tracing and like some of these features that they're forcing into console games can like limit the potential for what the game could have been if it had been baseline 60 from the get-go and build up from there, right? Like, hey, what I'm saying is on new games, set 60 frames as
your
standard,
target,
and then optimize up from there and implement some of the fidelity and graphical and resolution features you can.
No, you're absolutely right.
Nothing should be below 1080 60. Right, but you can get 4K 60. You can get ray tracing with 1440. You can do a lot of things, right? I gotta applaud PlayStation on this actually a lot, because some of their new games, they have those kind of default set in place because they have the same systems. They have the same like modes, like 1440 60, like 1440 up res to 4K with 60 frames, no ray tracing. Ray tracing 30 frames, right? Or even maybe they do ray tracing.
Or sometimes they do quarter resolution and they keep 60 frames with ray tracing.
See,
so I honestly think though,
I think it needs to be a thing.
I think, Mav, the thing that makes that difficult is, much like 4K, they're trying to give people benefits they can see, and FPS is something you feel, and it can't be seen easily when they're marketing it. That's why ray tracing was a big thing. You know what I'm saying? It's more a feeling than it is, hey, look at this 4K crisp screen or whatever. That's why 4K was pushed on people so much. You could definitely see the difference, right? Whereas 60 FPS is a feeling when it's in motion, but you have to be playing it to really feel that.
It looks better when it's in motion too, right? It's not just a feeling; it's actual visual clarity.
Visual clarity, yes, indeed.
So if they, I get the marketing aspect of 4K, right? I get the marketing aspect of 4K. 4K 60 for me is a sweet spot too. If you get a game of 4K 60, it's like amazing, right?
Yes, it is, absolutely.
But
you can even do 1440p 60, and then do upscaling from there. That's the sweet spot usually in PC land. So I completely agree with you. I do.
Yeah, it's just if they're using it for these things for marketing, I care more about the quality. And for me, anything below 60 frames doesn't feel like quality anymore, right?
True.
So set that as a standard and build up from there. Stop with tinkering with all these other fidelity settings for taglines for marketing and selling games and selling all this stuff. If we set it as a standard, right, then at that point we can build all these extra features up from there in the future, right? And I just think that's where they should go. I mean,
so I will say to that, when folks and I think as soon as I said it, Mill started kind of read my mind there. When folks stop, because the way they're developing right now, and I'll keep it basic. The way development is happening right now is you go to the gym, right? You work the arms, you work the legs, much like how processors are being built right now. Oh, in the early 2000s and the 90s, you go, oh, well, this processor has 2 gigahertz. Oh, but now it has 4. 4 is better than 2, so it goes faster, right? So it's always about brute force, strength, faster, bigger, right? At some point, they got diminishing returns, and they stopped working on just the brute force speed, and they started working smarter. So instead of maybe one processor at the fastest rate it can possibly go, maybe it's 4 processors, or it's a thing called multi-threading, where the same processor can be split logically into a lot of different processors, so the same task can be done by multiple instead of one task being very fast by one. Problem is, we are stuck in this transitional period where the last gen depends solely on the strength of the hardware. The new gen has a lot of smart features, but in order to implement those smart features correctly, you need to cut the ties from the last gen, right? And we can't do that. That means you have to build 2 versions of Dying Light 2 rather than that one that scales, right? And the minute that you decide that, okay, I'm still going to make PS4 and Xbox One a target as well as Series X and PS5, you must now build for brute force. Maybe add a bit of thing here and there to the end of it because you feel the usefulness, but you cannot spend your whole budget building it smart, because if you do that, Xbox One and PS4 won't be able to use those smart features. What you're describing now will become a standard when the old gen that did not have those smart features, your direct MLs, your fast decompression blocks on the PS5, when those things are the only floor that we have to account for. But as long as they have PS4s in the background that they want to build for, as long as you have OG Xbox One they want to build for, you will always see these things, because then they have to just rely on, oh, which one's faster, which one's stronger. They are not building it smarter because not all the hardware can support it. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep it as high level as possible, but that's the thing. That is the reason why the Series S still becomes the brunt of many jokes, because if you're talking about actual brute force, you're not getting it with the Series S. But when development becomes solely in the realm of intelligent build, hey, we're using machine learning to offload this. Oh, we're using the velocity architecture to offload that. Once that becomes the way things are built, you will be stunned at what the Series S can do, because that's all the Series S has is intelligence, not necessarily strength, right? But unfortunately, we live in a cross-gen world where you have to account for strength because, hey, it's got to also play on the Xbox One. And if you think about strength, technically the Xbox One X is as strong as, and in certain cases stronger than the Series S. You see what I'm saying? That's the reason why you'll get Dying Light stuck at 30 frames, because they have to account for the older gen hardware as well, right? But let's move on. John Wolf, with all these interesting new features coming out left and right, what do you think? Do you think that we're heading in the right direction? Do you think that they need to stop, prioritize other things? What would you like to see get added as we're in the 2022s and we're still dealing with Zen 2 cores and all this cool new tech? What do you think of the console?
Yeah, definitely with Xbox. I'm gonna beat a dead horse here, but they gotta get their DVR stuff fixed finally.
It's not a dead horse. Keep beating it, man. Keep beating it. It's not dead. Keep going, because that's what I would say.
Yeah, I know that Jason Ronald was on the Lord's podcast. He mentioned that that's gonna be a top priority for them in 2022. I'd like to see that finally come in the first 6 months here of the year, or even sooner. Honestly, around March time, first quarter, they should have targeted that. So DVR is a big one because, in my opinion, PlayStation, since the PS4's release, they really, that's something that they mastered, which was their social, the way that games were broadcasted, screenshots, how easily it was to put on social media. And I think that PlayStation, their fan base really took advantage of those features. The Xbox, of course, it has the backing of Microsoft, who is the software giant in this world. So, I mean, for them to be this far behind in those social aspects is really surprising to me, to be honest with you. I understand that they've had to prioritize other things, but for them to fall this far behind, it's kind of disappointing. Especially as a Xbox-centric gamer, I like to see them definitely pick up the slack there. I'm gonna tell you one feature that I loved on the Xbox One, and that was the snap feature, man.
Oh, yes. If you like the snap feature, go to PS5. It's on there now.
Yeah. I know. I saw a video the other day. I haven't tried it personally, but one of the things that I like doing, right, is that like if I'm gonna be using xCloud, I have this Samsung flip phone thing that I'm playing a game, and when I'm on YouTube, I'm able to minimize it, and YouTube is still snapped, and I can play
still running on the bottom.
I mean, just a snap feature like that, so I can listen to all my favorite podcasts while I'm gaming or something. That way I don't have to
100%.
have the phone.
I do that with my tablet all the time. Like I have my favorite podcast in the corner while Game Pass is still running.
Exactly.
In the front.
That's exactly what I do. And the fact that I need multiple devices to pull that off, and it's like, I know it's not the Xbox One, the one and all device. That's not what the Series S and X is advertising here, but they really need to step it up with those types of features. Another one, I did try the pin feature this morning, actually. So because I'm in the alpha program.
How's it working?
It worked well. I went ahead and I pinned Doom and Doom Eternal. That's going to be on there forever for me. Those are my two games.
Great.
So I definitely pinned those. I tried it out. The only thing that I noticed was that I have a Series X in the living room, and then a Series S here in my desk. When you convert over to consoles, it doesn't remember, and it has to kind of start all over again. But that's the only little problem. Yeah, and I think that's just a technicality thing. I don't know how they can fix that, but overall, I think that Xbox should definitely make that a priority in 2022 to fix their social. The features that they bring, they need to at least match or exceed where PlayStation is on there, and that should really be something that they look to do, because I mean they're supposed to be in my opinion, the industry leaders in innovation for software. So for them to be this far behind, it's kind of shocking, to be honest.
So to answer to address the thing you're talking about where we transfer from save to save, I have the similar issue, and honestly, there is a solution to it. They just don't want to implement that solution, and I'm hoping they do. Okay, so I know that it's a rarity for those of us, and as I speak to you, I'm pulling my card here. It's a rarity for those of us who use one of these cards that switches from one console to the other. The what do you call it? How they do quick resume, right? They take a snapshot of the place where you are in your game. They keep it on the console itself. That's the reason why when you take it from one location to the other, you lose that. They need to start putting it on the card. So wherever you go, you plug it back in, and your quick resume is on the card and can look for it there. Right now, the console looks for it on the actual hard drive of the console, right? And they probably don't like it because that will then take room off of your card that you can't use for games. But still, that'll solve your problem as far as, hey, wherever you go, not only does your game come with you, your save state comes with you as well.
Do you think that it would be? Is it technically possible for them to put that on the cloud? Because I'm not sure about that.
Well, the cloud might be difficult because it depends on how big the size of that save is, which then also must mean however many users are using it, you have to have huge cloud storage for everyone who uses it to then potentially be able to like upload your Doom save real quick and then download it really quickly.
I mean,
it might slow things down.
File is automatically in the cloud anyway, so it's just your quick resume state.
It's the quick resume state. Yes. It's the quick resume state. But they could fix
let me
it.
Ask
just
you,
keep it on the card.
Yeah. Let me ask you two gentlemen, what two games are you guys gonna utilize that for?
So for me, right, and this is difficult because right now we are in that, if this stuff doesn't really work necessarily for multiplayer games, right? Because multiplayer games, you always end up starting at the beginning anyway. But if it did, in a world where that's all sorted out, I would say Halo Infinite would kind of be stuck in my resume forever, because I just love going in there and just shooting around and just enjoying what the world has to offer. And that would probably, because for many years, what has been on all of my hard drives and continues to stay on my hard drive until Halo Infinite was Halo the Master Chief Collection. I can't play the Master Chief Collection anymore because there's no grapple shot. I can't do it anymore, man. I can't do it. Once I live in the grapple shot world and I know Life's Infinite, I cannot play Halo the way it used to be anymore. So now I'm like, whenever I feel like that itch that I need to scratch, which is the Halo multiplayer, the Halo gameplay, I go to Infinite. But until they solve that idea, because even in the campaign, they technically say you're in the multiplayer world, right? So it doesn't work well with quick resume. But that's definitely probably what I would do. That, and I'm also one of those heathens that tends to love the huge Ubisoft single player open worlds. So your various Assassin's Creeds or whatnot. Maybe I'll save that. It's an interesting feature to have. It's not my priority feature. Like you guys, they need to solve that DVR problem quick. I am one of those people that I've actually started depending more on streaming and recording, capturing data from my PC, because I want to buy a capture card when I want to, not because this hardware that's supposed to be able to do so is not doing it right. So I have not bought a capture card. So I usually record stuff on my PC, right? The PS5, as you guys have pointed out, their minimum allowance for recording is great. You don't even have to remember your recording beforehand. You can just literally go back in later and just pull the feature off. You've been playing for an hour and go, well, see that last hour of footage? Go ahead and save that. Boom, you have it, right? On Xbox, you have to remember to plug in an external card before you start gaming. Otherwise, you lost all your footage, right? I have this guy with me that whenever I know I'm going to capture footage, I plug it into the front. It's an SSD in an external enclosure. You plug it in, and then it'll remember to save it there. Otherwise, you've been playing for an hour, you've enjoyed yourself. Oh, nothing was connected. All that footage is lost. They're not recording anything. So to me, all this is all fun and games, but fix your DVR stuff. Like, fix your DVR. Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
Exactly.
What games do you save it?
I honestly don't ever really even pay attention to quick resume, except for making sure I quit out of games. So that way, when I launch them again, they have a fresh server. But,
so what you're saying there is you want them to have a feature to disable quick resume on certain games, because that's not capable.
For multiplayer, yes, because the multiplayer games, it's annoying because you launch into it and it kind of comes in and you got to actually quit out of the game a lot of times to refresh the server status.
Sometimes it comes back online, but then you lose your sound or something weird happens.
It's usually with multiplayer games, like it's working fine, but you can't party up with your friends because you're all on different like server status, right? So you have to like refresh that. And a way to refresh it is you quit out of the game and you reboot it. This happens in Halo Infinite. It happens in lots of games. Exactly. Apex Legends is another one. If you don't do that, you're gonna run into problems actually getting a friend even into your lobby, right? So for multiplayer games, I always quit out of them, and what I play for the most part is multiplayer. So what I would use this feature for is those games like Guardians of the Galaxy and other games that I kind of like go back to and to finish the stories.
Yeah.
Right, just to have those games set there, right, and then everything else I don't even use quick resume.
Gotcha.
I agree. Yeah. All right. So let us move along to another story real quick that might devolve into other conversations, but we're going to keep it respectful here. Microsoft wants to bring Call of Duty and other Activision Blizzard games to the Nintendo Switch. I saw this, and this obviously, for those who have been living under a rock, this was one part of a broader conversation that Microsoft's news stories hit this week about where games will live and all of this and that. And we can get into that if y'all want to get into that. That's fine. But people are, in my humble opinion, people are very much in their feels whenever we talk about this. So it devolves into ridiculousness. But this was a very interesting nugget of information that came out, because the reason why I want to talk about it is because assuming that and it all can be assumptions, specifically when we're talking about Nintendo, that they don't release new hardware this year or next year, right? And unless we know something, they know something we don't know, right? For now, the Switch, by and large, is the best-selling console ever. It has outshined every other console so far, right? And the hardware was literally built in 2014 for a 2015 release.
Because it's not a console.
Well, yes, because it's basically a mobile device that has been made a console. The console variation of the Switch is the NVIDIA Shield. I have that in my living room, and it's actually more powerful than the Switch because it doesn't have to worry about battery life and scaling priorities to killing battery life. You just plug it in and it's much better, right? So actually, if I'm not mistaken, in Japan, you can actually play full real Nintendo games on the NVIDIA Shield. They allow that in Japan, but not here. But so that hardware presumably will stay what it is for a very long time, right? How do we foresee a world where they will then bring and I know that mobile COD is available. I know that there's mobile variations of games available, but we've already heard information that they're talking about Call of Duty, the next version, Warzone, the next version. That's already been announced by Activision yesterday. Yeah. That's right. So presumably they're not talking about bringing the existing COD to Nintendo. When Microsoft takes over, that existing COD will be depreciated. It'll be the new COD. It'll be the new Warzone, right? And if we live in that world and no Nintendo Switch hardware, new hardware that's capable of running this natively has been released, don't we think that is the world in which Game Pass or a cloud-like service will then have to be put on Switch in order for it to run that hardware? What do you guys think?
Well, they're already running games on the cloud on the Switch.
Yes, they are.
Right, like this Kingdom Hearts game that just series that just came out.
Guardians.
They're running out of the cloud. Well. There's a lot of different games they're putting on there that are running via the cloud on the Switch. So I think they have the tech there,
of course,
to do it. And I think that it's possible. However, I think we're probably a few years even away from seeing Call of Duty games on the Switch or on Nintendo's platform, because they actually use the language Nintendo's platform.
Yeah, well, right? if you think about it, right, this would be after Microsoft has taken over, and then Microsoft green lights the taking over Activision Blizzard.
It'll be years
and then green lights it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're talking 3 years from now. Please.
By the time this happens, there will be something new from Nintendo. We just don't know if it would be a Switch 2 or if it'll be some other creation that they have. But whatever it is, I think Xbox has some kind of inclination, and Microsoft probably has some kind of inclination on what it's going to be. I wouldn't pull it past Microsoft and PlayStation, and Sony and Nintendo having a lot of discussions over the last year or so between each other with potential, little discussions about the business, where's it headed, and all these kind of things, right? And about discussing companies like Amazon and discussing companies like Google and these other big tech giants trying to get into the fold, right? And I think that we're seeing this relationship kind of strengthen right now between the three, discussing multi-platform stuff, right? Especially Sony and Xbox. So I think like that's another step, right? Getting more like Microsoft and Xbox games onto Nintendo's platforms, also potentially those Blizzard games as well, right? Who knows where they're going to stop once 3 or 4 years from now, once this ball gets rolling and we're getting more used to more games going multi-plat, like these multiplayer focused games. Who knows when it'll stop, right? But you got to think about how many Switches or how many Nintendo platforms are out there. And I think probably conceivably the next thing we see is like a Switch 2, because I think they're going to not want to kill that ecosystem that they've built within the Switch, right? Because you got already 100.
I'm sorry.
No, you already got like 100 million out there, right? So if you separate the user base, right? If you separate the user base, there's no guarantee of the next thing for Nintendo being a success.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you just have a better version out there that's more capable, and then maybe they can play the games at a higher resolution and better, right? Then you may be able to have other games from other companies come out and land on that platform as well without killing your existing ecosystem that you have.
So you're convinced that this will happen in tandem with new hardware. So you don't see this happening on existing hardware? Being that there's so many of them right now?
Unless it's some like half-assed, gimmicky, cloud-based, really bad thing.
Yeah.
It's possible.
This is why it's interesting to me.
But you got to think about the timeline. And it's only the only reason if this had happened, like if the deal had already gone through, then I would say yes, it's possible we could see more one on now. But I'm thinking timeline wise, the Switch is so outdated tech wise, like as far as the handheld, like.
But Nintendo gives two expletives about the age of the Switch.
I think they care more than we think, because they have to also be forward thinking. Right.
Okay.
They are very, very comfortable, but all of these big game companies have to still be forward thinking. If you just consistently rest on your laurels and just live in this ecosystem, like a PS2 was one of the best selling console of all time, but they still went to a PS3. Right. I mean, you can't just live in this one. Otherwise, eventually technology and everything will surpass you, and you will still get left in behind, and it becomes a thing of the past. They always have to move forward. So
just to establish the ground here right now, being we're in 2022, the Switch hardware is 7 years old today,
yes.
like where we live today. But continue, yes, and you're absolutely right. I don't think
like
PlayStation or Microsoft will get away with it, right? But Nintendo,
right? Yeah,
No,
I mean, Nintendo's always been successful with their handhelds. Every single one of them has been like the Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, by the way, the DS.
By the way, when the Switch hardware came out 7 years ago, it was behind, it was underpowered compared to the Xbox 360, which at the time was leaving the market as an old piece of as an old piece of tech. So it was always behind from jump.
Powerful than the Wii U, I believe.
Yes, it is indeed. It's less powerful than the Wii U.
Crazy.
I played Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, and it was better frame rates. Yes, I was one of those weirdos who had the Wii U.
Yeah,
I had better frame rates than Breath of the Wild on the Switch. So they've always
at some point
played to the different beat, right? You're confident it will. Okay.
Well, because all of their handhelds have been successful, right?
Yeah,
You've had all of the DS have been successful. All of their handhelds have been selling like crazy. This has really high sales numbers because it's a handheld. Like it sells like a DS, it sells like a 3DS, it sells like a Game Boy, it sells like all of those, right? The key added feature is being able to use it as a console, right? The next iteration of this will be hopefully a better version of that, where it actually is a better console, not just the handheld that you can dock, right? Yeah. And I think that's where you're going to see more of the multiplat be able to run natively, even if it's at a lower resolution or whatever than on an Xbox or a PlayStation. You're going to see more things come to that because they're still going to sell like crazy, right? It's a handheld.
Yeah,
it's going to sell.
So do you think that in order that next Switch will also be a handheld, or will they? Yeah, so they'll always be underpowered then.
Yes, but the technology is catching up to where if you had a Switch release today, you could probably get similar performance to like a Series S.
Yeah, we shall see when the Steam Deck comes out. Yeah,
I was gonna get there. Yep, I was gonna get there. So if I could interject,
please.
This is a loaded question, right? Because it takes a lot of we're trying to kind of speculate on where these companies are.
It's all speculation time.
Right.
We have fun speculation in the house. Why not, baby?
Exactly. It's only fitting, right? So I think that I agree with Mav that the next system will be Switch. It will have some type of Switch in the name because Nintendo has been so successful with it, and it just makes sense for them to do that, right? But I'm shocked, right? Sitting here in 2022. That Activision doesn't have a Call of Duty on Nintendo. Isn't that, some sort of Call of Duty game? So what I predict that's going to happen when this deal goes through, right, is the most obvious one, I think, is that they're going to bring Switch COD Mobile to the Switch, to the existing.
Just like Fortnite Mobile exists on Switch now. Yeah.
Right. I'm shocked that Activision hasn't done that, to be honest with you. It's just money just waiting it's just sitting there, So I think that that's something that Microsoft is gonna heavily approach. But I think that their statement that they made, that I forgot the lawyer's name, that he
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith. Brad Sims. I was gonna say Brad Smith. Right. I think that he did mean that from now on, once Microsoft this deal goes through, they plan on having Call of Duty on Nintendo as well. So that's something that I think that there's an immediate future, which is COD Mobile on the existing Switch, and then going forward, whatever Nintendo comes out with, you got to believe it's going to be as powerful or a little bit more powerful than the Steam Deck, right? I mean, if it doesn't, it's going to be kind of, Nintendo's going to be in a weird place, like, but still, you would think that it would be able to support the newest version of Warzone, lesser graphical fidelity, of course, and all that good stuff, but they would definitely be able to benefit from that as well.
Oh, and real quick, just to get correction. Yes, I know that the Switch was released in 2017, but the SoC, the chip that was built into it, came first from the NVIDIA Shield, which was released in 2015. So even though Nintendo used it in 2017, it is exactly the same chip as the thing that NVIDIA themselves released in 2015 and have been updating ever since. So that tech is 7 years old, although Nintendo has been using it for 5 years.
I want to say one more thing, more thing, Kay, and that's that, with this whole week has been very hectic with fanboys getting in their fields. There's been,
yes. Please speak on it. Go ahead.
And there's been, all top podcasters that I've been listening to, from Boom to Kay to yourself to Mav, Pong. You guys have so beautifully articulated this throughout the week that Microsoft, it's not the same good old days of exclusives and I need this game on my box. Call of Duty, if Microsoft puts Call of Duty on the Switch, even if it's the mobile version, like I said on Boom's show the other day, they have acquired more people in their user base. Those customers are Microsoft customers. And I think that that's definitely the future that we're heading in. And everyone that's in their fields about, Microsoft wants to, that they're going to bring other games. It's just common sense to me. And I think you two gentlemen as well, whatever games, this is the way to think about this going forward. Whatever games have a multiplayer aspect that need engagement, you better expect them on other systems. It's just the reality that we're in. So
there's a reason why they called it the Netflix of games. When did Netflix become exclusive to one hardware? Right. The Netflix of games. Netflix lives wherever you can find it. Wherever the app is available, that's where you can play it. And where does Netflix want the app to be available? Everywhere. On your smart fridge, on your phone, on your TV. When all this started, my first joke was, dang it, the Matrix that I love so much, I have the Blu-ray of it. Now that Netflix also streams the Matrix, my Blu-ray is trash. I have to throw it in the trash. It's absolutely like, come on, people, take it easy. It's fine. My only contention, and we can talk about this lightly because people get riled up and whatnot, and we can give our opinions and then move on. But my only contention to all of this is, if you parse the exact words that Brad Smith said, and Brad Smith is not just a guy. He's not just one of the PR men for Microsoft. He is the PR guy for Microsoft. He is the top lawyer for Microsoft. This is all public knowledge. He has $200 million in stock in Microsoft. He's not the hired help. He is the top guy. Whenever you need, like when you become, and I'm sure this happened when they decided to put Sarah Bond in positions of authority, and they decided to put Sarah Bond in place where she'd be out front speaking about Xbox or being a representative. They need to go PR training. You need to make sure that, hey, you have to stay on brand, stay on message, know what to say, what not to say, what type of words to use, what words not to use. Guess who does that stuff? Brad Smith does that stuff. He is the word ninja of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right?
I hear what you're saying, Asante, but like there's too much consequence, like because they're putting on
I understand what you're saying
right now for regulators and all this kind of stuff. They could try like get out of it based on wordplay and like.
Well, but nobody's getting out of anything. I'm not saying anybody's getting out of anything.
If this deal closes, right, and they put on this face and make all these promises now, even if the technicalities of it with the worded verbiage they're using don't necessarily mean anything later on, because of these promises and what they deem the promises to be and the focus, and they're very clear with that messaging, they can go back and undo this deal. The regulators,
but yes, I hear you, but and I don't mean to argue with you because that's not. I agree with you by and large. All I'm saying to that effect is, if there's a case to be made to regulators, guess who's the one who'll be arguing the point? Not Phil Spencer, not Satya Nadella. Brad Smith will be arguing that point.
Yeah.
If there's ever a case to be made where they need to go to the Supreme Court, for instance, guess who the top lawyer who'll be putting on the suit that'll be going into the Supreme Court will be? Brad Smith will be doing that, right? They chose the person to speak very carefully. If you want earnest conversation, you put on Phil Spencer. He's a nice guy. He's very self-deprecating.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're coming.
Go back and
hold on.
They can undo
I'm not
it
saying
all,
they're
right?
undoing their words. I'm not saying they're going to undo their words. I don't think they're going to undo their words.
Yeah.
Like you and Pong So, I believe that there will be a future where all of those games are multi-platform. I actually what solidified that idea for me was the org chart change, right? Phil Spencer is no longer the head of Xbox because Xbox is this closed platform. It has these exclusives. It has these things. Soon there will be a different head of Xbox because Phil Spencer is CEO of Microsoft Gaming, higher in the pyramid than Xbox, right? And there will be King, which is the mobile arm, which people keep disregarding, but King prints money, right? So there'll be a whole bunch of mobile games that'll come from that. You know, Blizzard will most likely get its own legs to stand on. Activision will become its own entity. They don't fall under just Xbox anymore. So Xbox can still be that exclusive machine. It can still pump out interesting exclusive stuff for people, right?
It will, sure.
That's right. And it all feeds up to the CEO of gaming at Microsoft. So from that small org chart, I knew that the fundamental way things were done were changing. I get that. You know, all I'm saying though is everything that has been said today by Brad Smith and this and that hasn't been for you, hasn't been for me. It's been for regulators. And in the world of lawyers speaking to regulators, they choose their words very carefully so that when the time comes for arguments to happen, they can parse those words and say this is exactly the statement that was made. It's word ninja soup is what's happening right now. So although I agree that wholeheartedly, this is a world where I solely believe that Call of Duty as a franchise will be multi-platform. It will be, right? Because it is a lucrative sacrificial lamb, if you will, to make. You know, I believe that. But
I just think the perceived messaging is so strong with this.
Yeah. But see, that's my problem.
You know,
perception is not what it's not what makes it right or wrong. And they chose the word ninja for a reason, right? You know, and everything else they've been saying is metaverse, take your drinks, all that stuff. It all leads to exactly where you and Mav and Pong and all the other very intelligent folks have been saying. I completely 100% agree. I just think people are already like either waving the white flag or they're already so upset. You know, people are just ridiculous right now with all this when it's unnecessary. Wait and see.
Yeah, I looked at it also right after I read after the news came out. And I read through the article, and I also find it funny the way that they did bring in Nintendo to the conversation because the narrative was, oh, Microsoft's going to take this game away from PlayStation. So I kind of like the way that they kind of PR'd it.
You know what that is. I know. Console warrior world trying to get a win. You know,
absolutely.
I just think
I do like how they said, hey, don't forget about Nintendo. They're also a player in this game.
Mav, please continue.
I just think it's time to put this to bed about wondering if these Call of Duty games are going to be multi-platform in the future.
Yeah, they are.
Right? And because for me, we have to take what they're saying for what it is, and they have a very clear message with this, right? And we can like pick it apart with the words and the verbiage and all this stuff, but they are putting forward. I understand that it's legal jargon, right, and legal wordplay and all this stuff, but they're putting forward this face, right? They are putting forward this hey, we're going to be the good guys thing, right? We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to put these games. I saw somebody in the chat that says they can't undo these deals. They are currently working on undoing deals that have been in the place that have already passed, that have got done years ago. Right now, right? So these things can happen, right?
Well, so the only other thing that I will not a pushback. The only other thing that I will add as a wrinkle in all of this is the reason why they're not being one way straight or another way straight is because if they come out and they say we commit to put all of Activision Blizzard games on
they can't do that because they
can't. You know why?
Right. Yeah.
Because right now PlayStation takes 30%. What if PlayStation goes, oh, we heard what you said in the public, now we're taking 50, and then you go, all right, PlayStation, now it's no longer available to you, and you go, well, you said you'd put it on. There are lots of logistics there. There's a lot of nuance there. That's where desire comes in. That's where they cannot come out and say one way definitive or another way definitive, because there's a lot of mushy middle in negotiations there. And the minute that you say definitively it's coming everywhere, PlayStation go, okay, the price is doubled. And then you go, well, it's not coming. And then they go, well, didn't you say it was going to be there? Like, there's just so much to it. So
great point.
Wait and see.
And like I mentioned before on my point, I want to make it again because I think it's one that's just common sense, guys. If the game needs to thrive on community and engagement, it only makes sense for it to be multi-plat. Why would Xbox want to close themselves off? Why would they want to do that? Just think about it from a common sense point. Now, if it's a single player game like a StarCraft Ghost that they relaunch or something like that, absolutely, you want people to come to the Xbox ecosystem to experience that game. But a game like COD, it doesn't make sense for that to be closed off to other systems. It just doesn't. It's just common sense.
Let me address iMill in the chat, who said, "True, Xbox going multi-plat will be dead no time. PlayStation will have the arena all to itself. Sony will be a $2 trillion company in no time." I respectfully disagree, good sir, because as you're in the jungle and the lion is PlayStation, right? That's true. But guess what the jungle is? Microsoft. They can't both play the same aggressive game because PlayStation can do whatever it wants because it's the Napoleon in the room. It's trying to survive. If PlayStation goes away tomorrow, it will seriously cripple Sony. If Microsoft goes away tomorrow, if Xbox goes away tomorrow, it's a byline on Microsoft's like ultimate book, right? They have so much money, and regulators know that they're, by any given day, depending on the day, they are either the number 1 or the number 2 biggest, most profitable company in the world. And because of that, you must walk softly and carry a big stick. Pause. You cannot be that aggressive man eating everyone everywhere because you are the biggest. You have the biggest muscles in the room. We all see it. The minute you punch somebody, it's your fault. That is the reason why they have to act differently.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Microsoft, it's just the way it goes because they're the biggest kid in the room, right? With great power comes great responsibility. It just lands.
Nice pull.
Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
Yes, and that's the reason why Phil has to be the nice guy. That's the reason why, because for those of us who've been paying attention to Microsoft in their trials and tribulations, the EU almost broke them up because they were being basically how PlayStation has been aggressive, eating those they don't like. And when you're the biggest guy in the room and you're also aggressive, regulators don't like you so much, right? So you must be the one that's able to be kumbaya. You must be the one that's able to have sacrificial, and in this case, quote unquote, sacrificial lambs. Like Call of Duty prints money. They'll just keep making money off of Call of Duty and use that to make better games for other environments. It is what it is. So people need to get it out of their feels about the whole situation. All I'm saying is there is so much nuance and mushy middle going on that before this ink dries, there's a lot there that could potentially happen, right? There's a lot that could potentially happen. So just chill, breathe. If you're a PlayStation gamer, understand that there will be games for you. If you're an Xbox gamer, all those games will most likely not cost you more than your Game Pass subscription now. So everyone has reason to chill, right? The back and forth, and they have to, why do I own an X? They don't care if you don't own an Xbox. As long as you're a Game Pass subscriber, they are good, right? I've heard people go, well, then what's the use of having the console? It is a choice that you choose to make. If you choose not to make that choice, they don't care, right? You can have it on your PC. And you're as long as your subscription is up to date, that's all they care about.
Okay, for people with that mind frame, the value proposition that this console and this ecosystem is giving you, you're gonna give in one day. You're just gonna give in.
It's undeniable.
Because, I mean, it's just there's gonna be a title or something that just makes you want to engage with that ecosystem. The same thing with a PS5. I have a PS5. I mean, Horizon's coming out.
I'm so excited.
I dropped down to $60 for, because of the free upgrade. Take advantage of that, people.
Yep.
I mean, they're gonna get you if you're a gamer.
No, 100%. I 100% agree. I just think people are spending too much time in the trenches of console war when it's unnecessary because there's so much that happens between now and then. Just chill, people. Enjoy the games. Have a good time. Yep. But let's move on. You
things that are way more important than this, and
that's
just COD.
100%, 100%, Mav. You and I are on the same page on that. And shout out to Pong Soul and Steel Rain, and they're doing their show as well. They're in the same boat as we are. We all agree on that. I just think people need to chill. There's so much that can happen between now and then. Relax.
I will say, keeping the conversation alive will not allow people to chill. People need to put this to bed.
They need to put it to bed and
accept it that Call of Duty is going to be multi-plat. Stop debating. Is this going to happen? What does it mean? What does this mean? It's the Call of Duty is going to be multi-plat. Like because the sooner that all these people that are out there in their fields and all this other craziness out there,
and most of you didn't play it in the first place anyway. So why do you care now?
Just move past it instead of holding on to that glimmer of hope of Brad Smith's wordplay. You know what I mean? Like it's because that's what they're clinging on to now. You know what I mean?
They need to forget about Call of Duty and just focus on CrossFire X, right, Mav? Just focus on CrossFire X.
It could be we're all wrong. It could be we're all wrong. You know what I mean? But just like those people are going to hold on to that and use it as ammunition and all this stuff. It's like just like move on. Call of Duty is going to be multi-plat. It's okay.
Thank you for checking us out, Jedi Knight Peter. Appreciate you checking us out. Thank you, man.
There's so many exclusives coming.
Yes. Absolutely right. All of this, so much coming, and you guys are so focused on, the list wars. Move on. It's fine. You'll be okay. Either way, you'll be good. So another PSA, and I said this last week, and I'm going to continue saying it this week. Everborn isn't here, so he's not here to slander us. Buy your PS4 version, people. Buy the PS4 version, please.
I give him credit for one thing, though. I'll give him credit. Did you see earlier this week that there was apparently some mishap on Sony's part that they were kind of making it was a little shady. Yeah, it was a little shady how you can upgrade it. Okay, great. Because I was gonna give him a little bit of credit. He did say, "Look, I put down the 70 because I don't want future problems." And I was like, you kind of just gave them $10.
I told him he's well trained. They keep disappointing you, so that's all you expect from them.
He was right for a week.
He wasn't right because the game isn't launched yet. It hasn't launched yet. If it launches and like Crossfire X, we can't access it. Oh yeah, my picket sign is right here. Let's hold it up. Let's get the pitchforks out. True, but for now, I honestly, and this is my cynical view, I honestly think they did this whole "we will give you this version of the game" under duress, right? People complain, hey, come on now, why are you going to do that? So they gave it to us under duress, but they're not going to market it so that everyone knows that they should buy the PS4 version. No, they'll put it out there so those who don't know any better will hit buy on the $70 version or more because it's about the money game, right? But those of us that are in this show, those of us that catch this later, if you happen to watch it, you happen to listen, please do yourself a favor. It is in my best interest to tell you buy the PS4 version. Why? Because the more people do that, the more these companies recognize that, hey, this is actually pretty useful and fruitful. We sold a lot more. Maybe we'll continue doing that. If this comes out and it's an option and it's available and you don't use it, then they can quietly shut it down and move on and you'll never see it again. Right?
Yeah. The fact that there's even a $70 version is slimy to me.
That's right.
Because they're taking advantage of the fact of the people's lack of information.
Exactly. That's why it's up to us to share this information with the world. Yell it from the rooftops. Buy the PS4 version. They should have changed the price
of the PS5 version to $60. Like that's just 100%. That would have made it the simplest thing. But they know that a lot of people aren't in the social. They don't read the blogs. They don't read any of this stuff. They have no idea. And just to say Horizon Forbidden West PS5, let's go, $70. I got it. Let's.
Yeah,
let's take my money.
If you want to buy the crazy woolly mammoth version, you do you. I actually had that pre-ordered, but then I'm like, you know what? I want to be the change that I want to see in this world. So I canceled that pre-order and I bought the $50 version. I pre-ordered the $50 version. If you have a PS5, you're gonna have to pre-order it on the web instead of on your console because the console will only show you the $70 version.
Yes, I know. I had to do it online, and I was like, "What's going on here, Jimmy Crack Corn Ryan? What are you doing, man? Like you're trying to pull a fast one on us here."
Thank you, Risky, for checking us out. I appreciate you, good sir. I appreciate you coming to check us out. He's in Australia, Risky. So it's probably real late for him. Thank you so much for coming out. But yes, anyone and everyone, if you want just the digital version, you're not buying the crazy, deluxe this and that. Buy the PS4 version because you save $10 and you're sending a message to PlayStation letting them know that this whole a-hole tax thing that they got going is not for you. buy the PS4 version. I'll be there day one. I'm looking forward to it. I've double dipped. I played it on PlayStation. I'm playing it again on PC. I love this game, but they need to make the price right? And if it was capable to be sold on PS4 for $60, there is no reason why that $10 price is justified. That additional
I agree with
it is not.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say, I agree with Matt. The fact that they have that $70 version on there, come on, guys.
It's slimy. Quite slimy. I agree. Highly slimy. Yes, 100%. So okay. I felt like I needed to drop that in there real quick to remind people it's coming out. If you haven't done so, please do so. Go buy the PS4 version. And before we transition to the main story of the week, let me say I appreciate all the folks that are in here. We've had a bunch of folks come and go, and there's still a lot of folks in here. Please consider hitting the like button. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so. We always try to have these when the news gods aren't like shoving us in one way or another. We like to have introspective conversations, evergreen topics, if you will, things that the gaming community talks about on a daily basis, things that move us. And with that in mind, I will transition to the main topic that I wanted to discuss this week, which is backward compatibility. Right? Backward compatibility has been a big thing in gaming for quite some time, right? We have talked about it at the beginning of the gaming, at the beginning of a gaming generation. PC folks have been sitting back laughing at us for a long time because you can play Chips Challenge that came out on the Windows 3.1. You can still play that on Windows 11 if you so choose, right? They've always been able to just keep their games as it was. But in the console space, until recent days, and I touched on it a little bit about the virtualization and this and that, until recent days, it wasn't really feasible to really move forward in a frame where backward compatibility was a viable option for people to use moving forward. So because of that, companies kind of dissuaded you from wanting it. Oh, nobody plays old games, things like that, right? But here we are, 2022, Xbox has been doing a great job with back compat so far, in my humble opinion. And by all accounts, we hear this reports of game services like Spartacus coming out from PlayStation. They will also be offering some level of backward compatibility. So I think right at the top, let's just have a quick conversation, and I'll start with you, John. What is your relationship to backward compatibility in gaming now? Do you use it? Do you like it? Is it a thought process you have when you're actually deciding to purchase a game system, or are you like me, Mr. NLB, newest, latest, best? What do you think?
No, I love all games, and it's huge for me. It's huge for me. Okay, I still have a PS3 sitting there, connected, Xbox 360. I wish that the news that came out last year that the 360 BC program was done, I got sad, man, because there were so many titles that didn't make the cut that I was looking forward to, like one of your favorites, Wolverine Origins.
Oh,
and
boy.
I get it. There's licensing issues with that stuff. I just wish that we lived in a world.
A quick aside, my friend, with the purchase of Activision Blizzard, that world might actually come back, because that was made by Raven, which will then be owned by Microsoft. Now, there might be conversations about who owns the license and Disney and this and that, but they own the code at that point. It might come back, but continue, please.
You're right. You're right. For Xbox fans to be able to have access to all those Spider-Man 360 games, I think that would be huge for Microsoft to do. That'll, I think that'll really, have goodwill with their fan base. But to answer your question, BC for me, it's huge because even though that obviously when you really think about it, the amount of time that gamers spend usually probably playing older BC games, I wouldn't even dare to say a number, but but I would think that it's in the minority, but then again, just to have that as one of your selling features, I think it's huge because it also draws in a crowd that appreciates that. Because if you think about it, can you imagine if we lived in a world where Netflix said, hey, you can't watch old movies anymore? You know, those are unavailable to you. But if you want to watch the newest season of whatever show, that's here, but you can't watch season 1.
So it's interesting you say that. A quick aside, Netflix has now announced that all the old Marvel movies that they made, Marvel TV shows, are now getting taken off of Netflix. And they may not be on Disney Plus. So it's just kind of like they're going into limbo. Very good point there, John. I'm kind of like, hey, man, I hope they're on Blu-ray somewhere. I would like to buy the whole first season of Daredevil and Luke Cage. You know what I'm saying? But yes, go ahead.
And if us three, right, we think about it and we remember, and everyone listening, when Xbox came out and they announced that they were going to be supporting original Xbox and Xbox 360 games on that E3, that crowd popped so loud,
raucous applause. Yes,
and I think that goes into the preservation of games, right? I've been listening to you and Everborn talk, you know, for ever since you guys started, and one of the things that Everborn says is that the game preservation is so important because the way that kind of the market has kind of trained us is that once this game is old, you know, throw it away. Like nobody wants to play it, nobody wants to see it, and it's like, why? You know, this is the only industry, when you really think about it, music, movies, you can go back and appreciate these things. You know, the other day I was playing I think it's Space Marine on the 360 because I got excited that they announced a new one and I wanted to go back, and I had never played it. Now, granted, it was playing 30 frames per second, and you know, that's another issue. But I still went back and I still appreciated it, and I think that it's so important that we can go back and relive, you know, these games and even play them. My personality, I have the type of personality where when I'm going to get into a show or a movie or a game or something, I don't like to start from wherever they're at. I like to go back and kind of from the beginning so that I can appreciate. Right, so that I can appreciate the story more and I can appreciate where it's heading and speculate and stuff like that. With the MCU, I remember sitting in and watching Infinity War, right? And I remember sitting in the crowd with my wife. We were so excited. And the part that the Red Skull comes out and he looks kind of like Mistress Death and all that stuff, you hear like the whole row in front of everywhere. Us. well, you did hear gas, and me and my wife were freaking out, but then you also hear, who's that? And I'm like, I'm like, dude, where have you been? You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that where you been person. So that's kind of like why I like to do that. And I feel like BC really does give us a chance, you know, as gamers to go back and experience these games. And I think that Phil Spencer, I you know, among the many accolades that Phil Spencer has, one of the ones that to me personally, it's front and center, is that he appreciates the gaming industry and he understands that game preservation is huge. And that's why I think that he really invested into the BC program, knowing that wasn't going to be a selling point, a main selling point. It is going to be for the hardcore, but not for the main, you know, audience. And when you listen to guys like Jimmy Crackcorn Ryan say, hey, that's my nickname for him. When you listen to Jimmy Crackcorn Ryan say things like, nobody plays old games, you know, it's like, dude, shut up. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, those are my thoughts around that case. So I'll let Mav take over.
Yeah, Mav, how about you? What is your thoughts on backward compatibility? Now, you and I are kindred spirits in, like, you know, you got me to rebuy an old favorite of mine. What do you call it? Midnight Club. I bought after watching you play it on stream. I'm like, yo, I loved this game, and it happened to be on backward compatibility, and I bought it that day and played it all the way through the night. You know, I know you still play some backward compatibility games. What do you think? What do you think of backward compatibility and what its role is in gaming in 2022?
Yeah, this is a great conversation because this was something I was really big on before the next gen launch, and it's something that not a lot of people were talking about. But this generation was the first time ever we've had consoles release with the promise of backwards compatibility, but not only having backwards compatibility. Well, there's some have had like backwards compatible, you can put disc and stuff, but like I'm talking about full on back compatibility that goes back generations, but in a way that it's improving your experience.
Yep.
Right. Not just, hey, you can play these old games on here, but it's legitimately, has hardware features built in that is improving the experience you get from old games, right? So bringing life to old games and making them better than ever been before. We've never had that before, right? Before this generation. It's incredible. And it goes into that whole game preservation thing. Real quick, I remember I wanted to mention this. So supposedly the Netflix deal with the Disney, with the Daredevil series and all those shows, all the Defenders, the Netflix licensing has ended, and the rights has reverted back to Disney. So they'll be coming to Disney Plus.
Well, that's the question. Like, has it? I hope so. I hope so. But continue.
They just can't announce it until their time runs up and through March. Yep. But you know, anyway.
It's scary to live in a world where potentially one of your favorite shows just falls into limbo and never comes back. You know what I mean?
It won't happen. Yeah, it won't happen with this. They're coming to Disney Plus. Like that's why they canceled all those shows in the first place.
So that they can bring it to their own. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so they can bring it into their own ecosystem, and they stop the production of the stuff that was going to disappear from the existing platform.
Yep.
Right. So they canceled that. They let the licensing deal run out, and then now they're going to be Disney Plus. We've already seen characters starting to appear on stuff in Disney Plus from the Netflix series. Right.
Very true. Yes.
And it's happening. However, okay, so getting back to this, like backwards compatibility and licensing, all this is really important, right? Because licensing deals going forward have to change, right? You're going into with car games, with like superhero games, with all these things. The games before and licensing was always done in a timely manner because you're living on a platform which is only going to be relevant for a certain period of time, right? Disc then themselves, you know, they get damaged, they get lost over time.
Shelf life. They are built with a shelf life. They know they're going to die eventually. Yep.
The market of it goes dramatically smaller over time to where, like, people have PS2s now, but there's not like it's not like a main thing that people play on, right? People have 360s, people have, you know, Xboxes, people have old Nintendo systems and all this stuff, but it's not primary resources for people to access their content anymore, right? Because there's a limited supply of them, and it's constantly dwindling, right? They're not making them anymore. Once the manufacturing stops on that train just starts to dwindle down into a funnel of very little, right? So that's where preservation becomes an issue, because when you're dealing with only physical assets, you only have the capability of preserving so much, right? At that point, it becomes a museum thing. The last few that exist in the world are going to be here in this place, right? And the world can't enjoy it anymore, right? Unless you bring it back, come out with like a new version of it, which may or not be the same. So this is big with Phil Spencer, and this is one of the reasons of this ecosystem that they've been pushing forward. And it's not just about backwards compatibility; it's about forwards compatibility, right?
Yes, sir. I was going to go there myself. Yep.
That's something they have been cognizant of when they started this whole process of making this digital ecosystem, right? Because you have to ensure that your licensing, your products, everything that you're coming out with, your games are not only going to be playable today in a digital world, where they got to be playable in the future. Could you imagine buying an app and then you get an iPhone like 15 and then you can't use that app anymore?
Hey, that has happened. You know? I have many apps that I can no longer access because the iPhone, they haven't updated it. You know, that has happened,
sucks,
and they're trying to avoid that.
What about like a movie? What if you buy a movie that you bought through the Apple Store? On an iPhone.
After a while, it's already gone.
And then after a while, it disappears because you can't access it on an iPhone 15. Or music. Right, media should be able to be consumed, and if you have better hardware capable of producing a better sound, better video, better quality,
it should be available.
You should be able to get those results, right?
That's right.
So that's something that Xbox has pushed forward, where there's hardware features in place with like auto HDR. You know, you have FPS boost. You have them going back and upping resolution on original Xbox games and all of this stuff to actually increase our experience to make these things that play better than they did when we played them originally. But it's still true to the same experience. Right?
Can I add one thing, Matt, to that? Think about also how Xbox kind of changed the way that these companies were re-releasing these remasters and charging us for it. They completely changed the game with that, where now we as Xbox fans kind of expect that, you know, the game will run better, and we don't get charged for it. It just works.
Yeah. Now think about, okay, all of the digital games you bought in the virtual store on the Wii and the Wii U, and then you buy a Switch. That stuff is locked into that Wii and the
100%,
right?
100%,
that is not okay.
yes.
That is not going to fly in the digital world of consumption going forward with Microsoft, with Sony, with Nintendo, even going forward into the future. They're going to have to figure out a way to make the products that you buy playable because you bought it.
And you know what, Mav? I honestly think that is where Microsoft is leading from behind, because before they started mandating, or before they put that innovation into gaming console spaces, that's how things were, and everybody was okay with it, right?
Yes.
I've always wanted to play Heavenly Sword from Ninja Theory on my PS3. I have my PS3. It's hard for me to get back to that system these days. I will never get an opportunity to do that unless they bring it forward. Now, I bought it on the PS3, but it'll never move forward, because that's the world we lived in, right? Oh, that generation's done. Throw it away. Move on. We believe in generations. Move forward, right? But until the console market now came out and went, hey, you know, we now live in a world where it's no longer expected that you'll just have to rebuy everything because of new generation or whatever. You should expect more. And now, because of that, hopefully we're going to start seeing even PlayStation, Nintendo, you know, make different moves to ensure that the purchases that you have made, you're not literally just renting it, you're buying it to own it moving forward. You know, as
a consumer, our mindset has shifted now, that we're not going to tolerate going forward that old world. We've already seen it with already some backlash towards companies for some of these practices. Now, going forward into the next platforms, there's going to be an expectation of compatibility of everything that we have purchased, because we have digital rights to this content to access it. And if you're forced into using this box that is perishable, right? You remember, a lot of Xbox stuff exists in the cloud now as well. So you can play it on mobile, you can play it on whatever. These things are going to transfer into other platforms. Maybe in the future, you can only access it via the cloud or whatever. Maybe there's always going to be other means. But that's one of the beautiful things about the cloud in the future with tech, right? Once it gets past this aspect of where it's not better than the box, right? Which will happen eventually, because
it'll 100% happen.
The box that they got somewhere in this server farm, somewhere in Tuscaloosa or whatever. I don't know where the hell they have it, but wherever are going to have these server farms and all this stuff. What they're going to be running is going to be way better than your $500 purchase that you have at home.
And again, Mav,
better internet too. Right?
And Mav, you should also take into account that you're judging it by our standards, and we're the hardcore, right?
Yes.
And I keep coming back to the Matrix. The Matrix will never look as good as it does on Blu-ray, but Netflix is good enough for most people, so that's where they play it, right?
But even that has gotten way better. Like Disney Plus, now
way better.
Dolby Vision and
and
HDR10.
You forget that there's a discrepancy because you get so used to just playing it and watching it the way you watch it, and then every once in a while something will come across you and you'll go, let me put in a Blu-ray disc, and when you do, you'll go, wow, I have been watching all this stuff this way. The Blu-ray is still way better, but the streaming has come so far that it's so good enough that you're just used to it. You know what I mean?
And it's the convenience, Kay. Let's be real. I mean, who wants to
whip out the thing and put it in the
I'm
disc?
lazy, dude. I'm lazy. Right. You know, I don't want to get up and switch disc and all that good stuff.
And I actually, like, and many people have said this, in Game Pass today, depending on the type of game you choose to play, games like Hades and things like that are now at a point where the playability and the latency is almost 1-to-1, to the point where you're just used to playing it that way, and you will never notice the discrepancy difference. It's just heavy games that have a lot of streaming requirements. That's today. Yes. They've already conquered that part today. Tomorrow, they're talking Doom. Tomorrow, they're talking Halo Infinite. They're talking, fast, heavy multiplayer shooters that will then just get better with time, So I completely agree with you guys. Doesn't mean that we won't live in a world where people want their locally native rendered stuff. I still enjoy my render stuff. There are people out there in the crowd right now that love their record players, and they will continue to love their record players. Doesn't mean they're going away.
Which is why they will still always, or not, maybe not always, but for a long time, at least, they will always have a concert available for the enthusiasts,
for those who want
the best quality, right? And that's great, because for even what it is now, an Xbox is just a device to access the ecosystem that we are purchasing from, right? Which is also available in a lot of other places now, and that's only going to progress. PC, cloud, mobile. You're going to see it on just TVs via an app, your streaming sticks, all these other things. It's going to get to where it's just going to exist on every device that you have an option to play on, right? And once it's to that point, and now I have like 400 megabit internet, right? Once like 2 gigabit internet becomes the standard, right? Which it will at some point. We've already seen AT&T recently say they're releasing 2 gig internet to a bunch of people in the US and stuff. Once these internet speeds become more stable, more larger across the world, then you're going to see this dramatically improve even more, right? Which is, people can only think about the boxes that they're constrained in today. But if you go back 10 years and think about what we lived with in 2012 to 2020 to where we are today in 2022, we never could have envisioned what we are experiencing today. Never could we have experienced that. And 10 years from now, we will be in the same boat. People will be looking at it being like, wow, I can't believe we were doing that in 2022. Remember the infancy of the cloud? Remember how all this stuff started? That was just like, boxes are irrelevant unless you just really want one, right? That's going to be the world that we're going to live in. And compatibility is going to be irrelevant because this stuff is going to exist in one massive ecosystem that we're all going to experience things through. And the Xbox is at the forefront of it. This also has ties to the Activision Blizzard thing, moving things forward with the ecosystem, one app, universal storefronts, all these things are all tied to this. And people it's accelerating way faster.
How we really
going to.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, how sweet. I want to make 2 points real fast. How sweet was it? The first one, how sweet was it that as soon as we plugged in our PS5s and Xbox Series S/X, we had large libraries in there. How huge was that? You know,
massive.
So that exactly. It's and super convenient. You didn't even have to change the power cable on the Xbox if you really think about it. If you were upgrading from a Xbox One S or an X. And another thing, Steam, right? The Steam Deck. One of their big selling points that they're using for their marketing is that it has the largest launch library of any system that has ever come out. So that's something that I think that also later on, later generations, that's something that they're gonna market, that hey, all your whole library is coming with you. Those days are long gone where you had to take all your discs to GameStop, get 50 cents for them each, and then trade in your consoles.
Games that used to cost you $60 now are traded in for like 50 cents.
Only to be charged again
for 40 or 50 bucks through used games. Yes, indeed.
And that's why I brought that point up earlier. Microsoft has again disrupted the market in the way of taking people out of that old mentality and moving towards a new direction with the value. I mean, now you don't have to re-release your,
I'm very big into the tech. I love the tech. I love deciphering the technology. It is amazing to me that and not to be outdone, PlayStation was also on the forefront. They just chose a different path. They made a different decision at some point. But it is amazing to me that when they decide, because all of this started based on emulation, right? And PC people have been emulating forever. These companies aren't the only ones that are able to accomplish it, right? For a long time, you can't emulate PlayStation 3. PlayStation themselves, Sony themselves, have not been able to successfully do it. But people at their homes have taken it upon themselves to get that done, right? And because the cell processor was very complicated in the way it functioned, so you can't emulate it in software enough to where it can really respond the way you want it to respond when you're playing in game. They're finally getting that done, supposedly based on Spartacus and all of that. I love the idea that when Xbox started that whole backward compatibility thing, people were like, oh, this is just a way of getting old games playable and wonderful, and this is great. It had so much more ramifications than that, right? Because this means that 20 years from now, you will still be able to play your OG Xbox games and presumably once that software tweaking keeps continuing, you'll be able to even play it better with higher fidelity than you can today, because they've worked on their virtualization method and their emulation to where the more virtual hardware you give it, the better it responds. They've done it in a way where when they go to a developer, because for those that aren't aware, it's a very closed system. So you can't just go in and tweak something when you want to. Then it has to be requalified. In many respects, a game, the minute you open it up, you break something. You tweak this, something else responds badly. So they have to qualify it, which the game on screen, Cyberpunk 2077, that's the biggest issue it had. It was broken, and they still allowed it to happen. But I digress. So it's very difficult to go in after the fact and tweak a game, right? And I suspect that is the reason why PlayStation makes you pay a little bit extra, because they don't have the same method of going in, tweaking it on the back end, and letting it shine on the front end without having to open the code, right? Xbox has been able to successfully do that to a point where they'll come to you, developer, and say, hey, we want to put your game in the cloud. Oh, and by the way, you have to do zero work to get it done. Guess what? It's already playable. Take a look. And you'll just be blown away, because you'll remember how hard it took you to get it to the stable state that it's in now. And they've been able to upgrade your resolution, increase your frame rate without touching any of that. That is major, like monstrous, So it brings me to this question, and this is a very interesting question and of course we have the fun speculation in the house. So we are in speculation town, Mayor. Please lead us where you want us to go on this one. I'll go to you first. With the idea that Spartacus is on its way, and there are various tiers to that service, and one of them being backward compatibility games being playable, do we envision a world where they also have a method to upgrade you without necessarily, because what they do today is they have to go into the code, they have to edit the code, they have to allow for resolution bumps, they have to allow for frame rate bumps, and because they have to spend man hours doing that, they charge you extra. That is their justification for $60 for this, $70 for that, or director's cuts, right? They have to literally put in man hours to upgrade it, whereas Xbox has a backward virtualization method. Do we foresee PlayStation getting past that hump so that they no longer have to pass that cost onto us? Do we see a world where they too can make your game, because I want to play Siphon Filter, but I want to play it like in today's eyes, not the way it was pixelated as heck. You know what I'm saying? Do we see a world where that will ever come to pass? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think a lot of the acquisitions they've been making, those little targeted ones, right, for some of these devs that have experience with cloud, or they have experience with porting games and all of the stuff, is all for a strategic move for the future of PlayStation, right? You combine that with now Bungie, with the infrastructure that they have, and also going to live service models and all of this stuff, combined with the fact that PlayStation themselves said they're going multi-platform, and they're also having 10 live service
that
games
is news
by
that people haven't
2026.
spent a lot of time on, right? The fact that they've
Jim
specifically
Ryan
said they're going multi-plat, but nobody seems to hear
it's
that.
an exact quote from Jim Ryan. Said he said people have noticed we're going multi-platform. I mean, you got to think about the future, for PlayStation as well. Like, they are seeing beyond that 140 million boxes that they have right out there in the marketplace. They know that in the future, where everything's going, that these companies, these big tech companies that are getting into gaming, and Microsoft's reinvested, right, that they are all going for this future of this shared world of content being easily accessible across multiple devices and all of this stuff. And doing things in the way in which Sony has been limited to the box, right, in the past. So they have to change their methods in order to move forward with the new infrastructure of the future world. And that is going to happen. I think it's one of the reasons why the Bungie acquisition makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can do a lot of these things and change the way that your infrastructure and your architecture and all these things are structured, to where you can have the box as an access point, but then also have your ecosystem live way beyond that. Right.
Yeah,
so that's the key aspect to it. And that's what they're going for now. That's what they're shifting to. They are now looking past selling a console as the main primary business and having an ecosystem live within that. They're looking to have an ecosystem now, and then the console is now a place to access that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. No, I agree.
And
I agree.
so
yep.
they've already made these moves. They've already made these acquisitions. They've already told us this many times now, and especially if you look at everything they said at this Bungie acquisition from Jim Ryan and all these articles about the future of PlayStation. I think Spartacus is going to be the launching point for that, and I think Spartacus was remember last year we had an article from Jim Ryan was interviewed, and he says we are working on our answer to Game Pass. Well, Game Pass is the consumer access point for that ecosystem, right?
Yep.
Game Pass is the consumer access point to access Xbox's ecosystem for gaming, right? That is what is sold to us to be able to live in that world.
Yeah, that is now the platform, basically.
That is the platform, and now you have other games that
and
are
all the devices get you
in the
to
storefronts, and everything you can purchase. But Game Pass is the main access point that is going to be pushed, because that's what's easily livable everywhere, right? So now you have these storefronts, what Xbox is also pushing as an open platform. They're trying to get in the ground floor of this to be the main storefront for everything, pretty much. Take a smaller cut of everything instead of 30% of something, right? So they're trying to get in the forefront of that. So is it possible? Yes, because Xbox is providing Azure already to PlayStation. Azure comes with these cloud infrastructures, with cloud development being one of the primary things. That's included within that technology, right? So these structures of these platforms that's available, and even with this open ecosystem, open platform of storefront that Xbox is proposing, has a tier-based system, right? So you can host your game on our storefront. We'll tell them to take a small cut. You can host your multiplayer on our servers. We'll take a larger cut. You can then also, if you want, you can use our web development tools, our cloud development tools, and actually create your game in the cloud. Then we'll take another cut, right? All of these things are going to be tiered, and that's what they're proposing. If everything's built outside of it, it can still be hosted on their storefront. It can still be all of this, but they'll just take a small portion, right? But offering these services at the ground level, right, of the new world of tech going forward is cloud-based. Azure and Amazon Web Services are the two big head honchos right now, right? With game development, with cloud infrastructure, all these things for entertainment and media, right? So that's what Xbox is looking out for. That's what Amazon's looking at Xbox. You know, you don't bat an eye at Lost Ark, right? Lost Ark is really popular. Amazon's
out there. They're doing it. Yeah.
They're testing the waters with the gaming space right now to see how big of a thing it's going to be, because they're already dominating with the video streaming. Netflix and Disney Plus both use AWS, right? So if they can actually host gaming they also got they got game development tools as well, right? In the cloud, then that's going to push them forward. So this is really a battle
that's
right
where
now
I think they're behind right now. They have game development tools, but for themselves, as to consumers, they've offered storage space, they've offered cloud space, but they haven't offered game development suite for AWS
like
just
Xbox
yet.
has.
Yeah, right. Xbox with PlayFab and all that. They're a little bit ahead of that game. It's just and I'll be honest with you, I'm a little self-serving in asking these questions, because I am looking like my ideal world is to pay my 2 subscriptions, one for Xbox, one for PlayStation, and then by and large, the old games, new games, whatever games, obviously there will always be some in the middle where, you'll want to pay for this multi-platform game or whatever. But by and large, they come to the service. I pay my monthly subscription and I get access to old and new. And like Xbox, because as I said, they've trained us in a certain way, the old is new because they clean it up, they make it better, they push it as far as it can go. It's never going to be perfect because they weren't built with 4K 8K in mind, right? But shine it up as best as you can, clean up the controls as best as you can so that we get the freshest experience of that game possible. What I'm afraid of is that we'll get this tiered system with Spartacus, and it'll be the exact same experience we had before, because
that's where I'm going.
I too am a collector of old tech. I have my PS4 here. I have a 360. I have a PS3, PS2, PS1. I have a bunch of old stuff. I actually collect retro consoles. I go all the way back to like ColecoVision and Game Gear and all this stuff, other stuff, Dreamcast. I love that old stuff, right? But even in that world, there's software emulation that tweaks the hardware, that kind of cleans up the pixels and makes the movements a bit smoother and all that. If you can't offer that in today's world, you're gonna kind of lose, because I feel like Microsoft has set the standard to be like, oh, see this old busted game from way back in the day? Now look how we shine it, right? So you, PlayStation, better come with your own version of that, and it better not be, per game additional cost. Otherwise, you've already lost the game before you started. Am I wrong here? John,
the way you're not wrong, but unfortunately, this is what I see coming, right? This is I think the way that PlayStation is going to handle Spartacus. It's going to be PS Now and PSN bundled up into one thing. Think about how Game Pass looks on your PC when you launch it, how it has, your games that are downloadable on the PC side, your streaming to the cloud, and then the store, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the approach that all these moves, to your credit, Mav, that PlayStation has made, has been to kind of replicate what Game Pass is offering. Okay, do I hope that I'm 100% wrong with this? Yes, because I would love to be able to play God of War 1 and 2, at 4K, 120 frames. That would be so sweet, and all those old PS2 games. But the reality is,
you can do that today on PC.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that I don't think that PlayStation is going to go that route, and that's based on the way that Jim Ryan sees backwards compatibility. He said it with his own words. I don't think that it's something that he has bought into. And quite frankly, even though that I do think that it's one of Microsoft's strongest points, I think that it's not what's moving consoles. So to him, that's kind of like back there. Now with that said, I do also know that there was some type of document showing that Sony had worked on some type of BC to implement PS1, PS2, and PS3 games. So that gives me a little bit of hope. But the reality is that I think that what you're going to get with Spartacus is the investments that they've made on acquiring these PC devs is to get their games faster on PC, because since they've already dipped their toes in the PC market, they want their own launcher. That's going to be Spartacus. Spartacus is going to be their own launcher on PC that they're going to get 100% of the cut, but they also know that they have to compete with Game Pass, and they need to have a huge library of games to get gamers in. And do I think that they're going to let people play those games on local hardware? I really don't. I think that it's going to be streaming. That's why they make.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go back to like PS1, PS2, PS3 and bring all of those games natively. I think that this is more about the future of what they do.
So they're going to emulate it in the cloud and stream it to you.
Right. It could be that. Okay. I think so. Okay, and it could be. I mean, I'm hopeful for us gamers and PlayStation fans. It could be that Sony has come up with some way to implement something in the cloud where frame rates and resolutions get boosted.
PS1, PS2, easy. PS3 is the sticking point, because PS3's CPU to this day, it's still one of the most monumental achievements. It's just very complicated to work with. So emulating it has been very difficult. It's been very, very, very difficult. That's why the games that were made on PS3 kind of are in their own little silo, right? It's very difficult to find something to emulate it, even by today's, Core i9 standards, where there's all these crazy processors. They did interesting, unusual things in that world. And unfortunately, because of that, emulating a system to make it think it's a PS3 has to also emulate that cell processor. And that's proven to be quite difficult. But no, I hope you guys are correct. I hope that because, hey, not to be outdone, man, PlayStation has some very interesting, very intelligent folks working there. They were first with the emulation and cloud streaming screen. Gaikai was a thing. I recently got an LG OLED, but before then I had a Bravia. And way back in, I don't remember how many years I had my Bravia, the first thing I saw when I booted it up was PlayStation Now on the TV that I could then pair my controller to. Eventually it went away. Why? And this was years before Game Pass was even a thought process, right? I initially could just play PS Now games directly from the TV streams to it, right? It was a brilliant idea. And then, of course, they seem to step away from it, decisions, right? And now, of course, Xbox has picked up that mantle and is moving forward with it. So I'm not going to ever say that they're not capable of coming out with interesting things. As the tech guy myself, I'm very interested to see how they implement it, because I don't think it will be exactly the same way Xbox has implemented it, because that just requires a lot of time and a lot of R&D that they may not have.
Yep.
So I wonder how they'll do it. Maybe it'll be native hardware in the cloud.
Well, in the future, all they got to use is the cloud tools to develop their games.
True.
That's true.
Then you have moving forward.
That's what
exactly
I'm saying. Moving forward, this is not about the past. The past is already done. They can't do anything about that, right?
So you don't think there's a world where PlayStation 1 and 2 libraries will come? You think that maybe that ship may have sold?
Unless unless it's like they just really do good emulation and to make it natively. I mean, it's possible, but it would have to be emulation at that point. I mean, it's not native, right? So it'll be native on the console, but through an emulation process, which at some point, some's better than others. Some games work better than others through those processes, right? So we'll see like what they can come up with. I think that there's a world where that could happen. That's what Xbox did back when after Xbox One launched, and we was like, we don't know if we're going to be able to get back compat for 360 games, but we're going to try, right? And they made it happen. They were like,
they emulated Power PC.
Made it happen.
And made it happen, which like I am still waiting for that book. I want to read it because that stuff is brilliant, like next level brilliant. How they were able to, in software, clone a CPU to think that it is the hardware. And Cell is such an uplift. I actually remember that time. Shuhei Yoshida, shout out to him. I always liked him as one of the PlayStation developers, executives. He came out and said in an interview, he said, "Oh, what they've done is monumental. We couldn't do that. It's too complicated." Right, because at that time they had the Cell processor, right?
They're called wizards for a reason,
Indeed. There's a reason why. Ronald's beard is wizard-like, because the stuff they do out there is absolutely amazing. So I look forward to seeing it. I guess we can round out this conversation and ask the question. And I'll start with you, Mav. When do you expect us to see something about this whole Spartacus thing happening? Because I really do want to see. Oh, and before I do that, Erodimus in the chat has been trying to bring attention. He wanted me to mention it, and I will mention it. Maybe get your opinions on it real quick. The idea that now they're censoring games. I see that they were talking about some games are coming out, and on PlayStation this time, Martha is Dead is one of them. And by the way, that game has some really crazy things in it. So I kind of understand why they may want to censor some things, but just the idea of, hey, and I guess that's a symptom of the cloud, right? That's a symptom of games living on. It can't be in stone. They can edit it based on the region, based on the thought process or the culture and ideals of whichever platform it's on. On Xbox, it's going to be raw and uncut. On PlayStation, it's being censored. That is a troubling trend that we are seeing in the industry, because those games kind of live on now. Mav, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think this has already been going on before games release a lot, right? So this is a thing where it's like, this situation is where it's getting a different version on different platforms because of this, right? So that's very interesting. I think it should be more of a universal system that's set in place, and so that way this kind of thing doesn't affect consumers. It's like PlayStation's become the Walmart, right? Where they're getting the radio friendly version of the content. Like
you can't buy alcohol on church on God's day.
You remember back in the day, you go get that Chronic 2001 at Walmart. And you play it.
You get the radio edit version.
Like what's this? Like I wanted the hardcore stuff, but like it's
it makes you feel like if you're buying a lesser version,
Yeah, man, it's tough to say. I don't really know what was in the game that they censored, so I don't want to speak on it too much without all of the information.
Sure. Yeah.
However, like a universal system, and this already exists. Like if people like are saying, "Hey, don't censor any of our content," like it's already happened. Like there's ratings and stuff. Like they have to get through the rating system to even be able to release the products to us in the first place. Except for like some crazy shit on like Steam and stuff like that. It's just like personally made projects and and stuff that get out there. But if it's like an actual product that's being released to us on Xbox and
I see
stuff,
what you're trying to do there, Fuzzy Belvedere. I see you, man. I see you.
Yeah.
He said face swap.
I mean, they got to be rated to begin with, so we're already getting sometimes cut versions of content, and maybe like Australia has stricter rules, so sometimes sometimes they maybe just tone down the whole thing, so that way they don't have to make two versions, right? So
shout out to Boxenberger. He was talking about how the version of Wolfenstein in Germany was heavily edited, right? A lot of the swastikas were removed and things like that. He tried to buy a different version from another region, and he got banned from Xbox because of it. Right. You know what I'm saying?
It'd be nice if like this didn't exist, right? But however, like I just don't know enough about this specific situation to really have a.
I do think it's a troubling trend, though. It's a troubling trend if that is basically where we are living now. You know, go ahead.
You guys remember? I forgot which. I think it was Modern Warfare 2. That it gave you a warning before that airplane level.
I remember.
Basically, I mean, if the game at least gives you a heads up, you have the right to choose whether you want to censor that or not. I think they should give you the option. You know, it shouldn't. They shouldn't be making the option for you. If they give you front and center, they give you a heads up like, hey, this game contains this and this. There's a scene where this and this. You know, do you want to play it or not? You know, let me choose. I'm an adult. I purchased the game, and does it add or does it take away from the game? I don't know that, but I'll tell you what, that I do remember how I felt playing that level on that Call of Duty game, and that was pretty impactful. You know, so in a way, I do see that it is the artist's vision to kind of portray that, and for any law or censorship to kind of take away from that, to me, I'm not a big fan of that personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. And I
wasn't even planning. Though, I mean, like, where does that line stop?
Yes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I get it. You know, it's complex.
Like, it's a nuanced conversation. Very true.
Really messed up stuff that's out there on the internet. You know that people can play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely, and that is why your point, Mav, is so true. You know, it's not something that we can blatantly say one way or another, because there's always some mushy middle there. There's always some nuance there. Even Germany's stand of not having swastikas anyway. They had laws where no one was allowed to be called Adolf. You're not allowed to name your child Adolf. You know.
Wow.
For reasons, right?
Yeah,
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to change. They recognize that what those things mean in their culture. In our culture,
they don't want to give it praise. You know, they don't want to give it any type of praise or anything like
that.
That's
right. It makes sense, and to us, it may be alien or it may be foreign or whatever. The problem where I have issue is when one regime or one set of people is having another problem with another set of people, and then because of that censoring of content, you know, we've seen that happen as well, where in China and a few other things where that's where I think is a bit more straightforward, and it should not be allowed. But there's a lot of nuance in that middle, you know, and I think it's good for Anonymous to have brought it up, because those are the things we're going to have to contend with when we're living in a digital future where all old is new, because then after the fact, things can be edited out, things can be changed. It's no
Metal
longer
Gear.
Gold,
it's happening with Metal Gear,
right? Gold standards aren't gold standards anymore. You can always poke at it and change something and edit it for this place and edit it for that place. It makes it a little difficult, you know, to live in that world. And those are the things that we have to be very cognizant of and pay attention to when we're talking about our digital future, right? You know, so yeah, it's been an interesting conversation. Now I think we're rounding at the bottom of the episode now. We had some issues in the beginning, but we were able to serve it out, and we were able to do the backup plan, and we got this off the ground. I so highly appreciate the folks that were able to stick with us, join us, our esteemed panel, our esteemed guests. Folks, again, if you like the content we do, please consider subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, like the channel, you know, maybe share it out to a friend, let folks know that this is what we do. When the news gods aren't beating us over the head with crazy things that demand us talking about it, we like talking about some evergreen topics, things that come back, that shape our gaming space, things that, you know, that affect us all in different ways, you know, and we want to continue having those conversations. But before we go, I want to really thank you, John, Wolf for stepping in for the old Everborn Saga. I see the slander about Sega was kept to a minimum. Y'all don't know this man is as much of a Sega stan as Everborn Saga is, but they were kind to you, sir. So thank you so much for being here. Tell the folks about your new YouTube channel. Tell them where they can find you. I highly recommend you go check out his stuff. Very introspective, very level-headed conversation. Please give us your outro.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for the invite again. And I tried to do my best to fill Everborn's shoes, but that task might be too hard to do. But yeah,
slanderous shoes.
Yeah, for sure. You guys can find me on my YouTube channel, John Wolf. Tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Crispy Bomb, one-on-one. Awesome. Yeah, I really want to get to know Crispy, huge Gears fan, and looking forward to that on Super Bowl Sunday. And yeah, you can find me on Xbox and PlayStation, John Wolf as well. And hit me up if you guys want to play any games or just chat about gaming or anything. I'm down always for a conversation. I like to listen to different perspectives, try to soak it all in and then kind of make sense of it all. I thank you two gentlemen for spending the morning and early part of the afternoon with myself chatting about games. And I wish you both well. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. Come this Monday, don't forget to get your gifts for your significant others and take them out and
giving good messages out there. Good job,
absolutely,
sir. Good job.
Absolutely. Take the significant other and have a good time and have a great weekend, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir. And of course, Mr. Fun Speculation himself, the man whose media empire seems to be growing by the day. And I say that in the kindest way possible because honestly, you are a mainstay in my house. You're always on my screen somewhere. It's awesome. You have great content yourself, your lovely wife. You guys are always very hilarious, very, very fun conversations. You keep a very good cavalcade of individuals around you, So I appreciate you being here, and it's always fun. It's almost like you're in the room with a bunch of friends having conversations anytime you're on the screen. So thank you so much for blessing us with your appearance on our air. I'm sure we're going to have you back. Maybe you can be directly slanderous with Everborn. How about you tell folks, the few who do not know about the old Fun Speculation media empire, tell us where we can find you. Tell us when you're streaming at 2 a.m. Tell us where folks can keep up with you on social media.
Yeah, man, this was great. I was super excited when I got the invite to be here because I told you early on when I first started hearing you and you started popping on the scene. I was like, you got something, okay, Asante. I mean, you got very good at this. You know what I mean? And I love seeing your show grow and getting the views and everything that you guys are doing. Everborn's great as well. I mean, you guys are awesome together. So it's a pleasure to be here, man. Absolutely love it. Love what you guys are doing. But if you want to check out more of my insane takes on whatever, check me out on Twitter at Fun Speculation. Also, you can find us on YouTube, Fun Speculation, where we do lots of different things. I play games. I will impromptu stream sometimes, some random thoughts. I create videos with different takes. My wife's now doing some little news updates for us as well.
I love that, by the way. Y'all should do more of that. It was real cool. I saw that the Caitlin did a little bit of a news dump. It was real cool. I appreciate that. Yes.
Well, it's like we always have all these topics, and for me, I'm trying to think of like, okay, well, I want to have a lot of the stuff live in this one world on our channels where people that maybe aren't on Twitter or whatever may have some reference as to more of what we're talking about without having to go all into the details all the time. So yeah, just different ideas. We're trying to come up with different things we're going to do on there. So she's going to do that. And I thought she did a great job. So I'm looking forward to her doing more of those.
I highly agree. She did an awesome job. And, concise, straight to the point, give you the news you need to know. Real cool. It was an interesting idea. Very good. Very good.
Yes. So yeah, we're going to do some more of that. But then also, guys, we got lots of shows, right? So we do the whole podcasting thing with lots of different stuff. We got Fun Pop is on Wednesdays where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games like Marvel stuff, DC, Star Wars, all this stuff. It's gonna be a huge week next week because we're probably gonna get lots of trailers on Sunday, right? And also, DC just had this awesome thing just dropped the other day. It was amazing. Thursdays, check out PM and the PM with me and my buddy Pong Soul. We usually deep dive on a couple of specific topics and kind of go and look at it from a industry perspective type of view, right? Then also Friday, Xbox Ultimate. We go left a little bit on there. We get a little crazy because we got a big panel. We have a lot of fun. And we had our show last night. It was a blast. I recommend checking that out. We had a lot of laughs. And then today, Saturdays, is FSP. So you'll see me again live at 6 p.m. Eastern time with my buddies Fuzzy Belvedere and Gaming Key. We're going to be discussing Nintendo's Nintendo Direct and a lot of more stuff. That's a show where we go more multi-platform and talk about all the different consoles and stuff going on. And then Monday, sometimes we do some game updates for what to look forward to with the games coming out for the week on Tidbits. So yeah, check us out, guys. Just, hopefully you find something you like. If you do, give us a sub, share it out, hit the like button. But I appreciate you, man. John, awesome getting to sit here again with you. I've already gotten to podcast with you a few times now, including on your show. So it's a great time. Awesome thoughts as well. And you're good at this too. So keep working on it.
Indeed, I agree. Yes, you found your calling, good sir. You're natural at this. Yes,
appreciate it, guys.
So no, I appreciate everybody for sticking with us, for watching. If you haven't followed these gentlemen, I will make sure I put all their show notes and all their details in the show notes. I appreciate you guys going to check them out. I see that we did, because we started a little later, we did outlive Living Split Screen. They just ended about 9 minutes ago. If you happen to have been here and didn't catch their show, how about you go back there and check out their show, because they also do a very awesome show on Saturdays. So if you happen to catch us and not have caught theirs, go back and watch them on demand. That's what I'm planning on doing as soon as we're done here. So we're always a gaming community here. We're always doing it together. We love hanging out with each other and having these conversations. We don't always agree, but it's always respectful and it's always cool. And we appreciate folks continuing to do that. So before we end this, I will say thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Thank you guys for continuing to promote and support us. I will be also on the Shop podcast tonight with the one Mav himself. So we're bookending the day with more talk with each other. I will see you on the Shop podcast tonight, good sir. So you'll catch me there, and I'll be there with PTK Blam and Mr. Pong Soul himself and the rest of the crew. So you'll catch me having more conversations about gaming there as well. But we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we work out the gremlins that have been plaguing our setup. But if need be, we'll do it old school like we do it right now, and we'll get it done. It's not about the flash; it's about the conversation. And I appreciate everyone who stuck with us to have this conversation today. But until next week, I hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Peace.
Take care.